Can I get a motion to move back into open session, please?
Motion.
Oh, gosh.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I make a motion to move into open session.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening. Today is Wednesday, the 5th? February 5th, 2025. Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we review the agenda, I'd like to make a motion to make an adjustment to the agenda to add a closed session after the end of this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Let's see. And so, read your statement.
Pursuant to the general provisions, Article 3-305 and 3-104, the Board of Education of Queen Anne's County met in closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials of whom this public body has jurisdiction, and to consult with legal counsel to obtain legal advice. The topics included applicants for new hires, resignations, transfers, extra pay, extra duty, and other personnel matters. And the reasons for the closed session topics is to inform the public discussion of applicants and employees' names and personnel information, and could discourage people from working for the board and contain sensitive personnel and biographical information. The topic of administrative function, to discuss board norms and communication. And the reasons we met in closed session is a substance of discussion is considered administrative function outside the scope of the Open Meetings Act. The public body is recessing an open session to carry out administrative function in a meeting that is not open to the public pursuant to 3-104.
Thank you. As we've already approved the agenda, let's,
Amend the agenda, but you have to approve the agenda as amended.
may I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. We're gonna do these together. Everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes for the open and closed session on the 15th.
Yes.
May I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes for January 15th meeting for closed and open sessions.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll do the same for the minutes on January the 22nd, budget session.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the January 22nd budget work session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And now we get to have the fun part. Awards.
We have some special awards this evening, and I'd like to invite up our English Language Arts Supervisor, Mrs. Bridget Passon, who is going to start us off with some recognitions.
So Jen just click or slide down. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, Jen's gonna handle that. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sanders.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bridget Passon. I'm the Reading English Language Arts Supervisor for grades 3 through 12. I am here with my colleague, Michael Bell, who is the Art Supervisor for K to 12. And we partnered with some incredible educators to have a bookmark contest for students across the district. I really want to tip my hat and point out these teachers who helped. Miss Janice Seiden, second grade teacher at Ken Island Elementary, this was her idea, and so we're so excited to celebrate tonight. Ms. Seiden is holding on to the certificate, so you'll get your certificate from her. And we have Ms. Grimes, who is at Kennard Elementary School as one of our teachers, Ms. Tickler, who's at Church Hill, and Dr. Osborne, who's one of our district reading specialists. So we're all going to help the 8 of you celebrate this great creative literacy achievement. We had students from across the district participate, 67 total, and a bunch of people judged, and we narrowed it down to these winners from elementary, middle, and high. So we are excited to announce and celebrate every one of you, and we're going to start with our elementary winners. So, in first place, we have Ava DePietro. Ava DePietro, will you come up, please? Your certificate from Ms. Seiden. Awesome. In second place, we have Charlie Eichler. Charlie, will you come up? Get your certificate. We're gonna get a big picture afterwards. Some sibling support, it looks like. Okay, it's always needed.
Mom and dad's work.
Oh, Mom and Dad's work. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, and in third place from the elementary level, Avery Wagner. Avery, come on up. Down here. Okay. Avery couldn't join us, but we'll get her certificate and award.
Jerry wants to take pictures, but she's doing it. Yep, we can do them all together.
Okay, once I get everybody up here. Okay, from the middle school, in first place, we had Vivian Dorsey. Vivian. Very cool t-shirt, Vivian. Congratulations. Stay right here. We'll scoot down. And in second place from the middle school, we have Mackenzie Frick. Mackenzie. Congratulations, Mackenzie. Nicely done. All right, now for our high school students, who happen to be all 12th graders. In first place, we have Brooke Register. Brooke. Congratulations. In second place from the high school, we have Elsa Lavoie. Elsa's not able to be here tonight, but we'll be sure to get her certificate and award. And in third place at the high school, we have Delaney Thomas. Congratulations, Delaney.
Maybe if we could have this do a younger
Yeah.
students move this way.
Yep.
That would be helpful.
Come on over. We'll get a big group picture.
Come up here. Yep.
You're doing a great job. You stand, how about you stand right here? Perfect, thank you. Okay, everybody look at me and smile on 3. Ready? Look at me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Awesome, great job.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you to both supervisors for their leadership in making this happen. And congratulations again to all of our students. Our next award is the Energizer Bunny Award. This award is given to a staff member or volunteer who keeps on going. It is sponsored by Bayview Financial with Mr. Chip Brittingham and Mr. Wayne Humphreys, if they'd please come forward. Our nominating principal this month is Michelle McNeil, our principal at Sudlersville Elementary School, if she'll please come forward. I know I saw her in the hallway. And our Energizer Bunny for this month is Ashley Jones, if you'll please come forward. Your principal has some lovely things to say about you. It's wonderful to share about the impactful work Ashley Jones is doing as a Title I behavioral interventionist at Sellersville Elementary School. Her dedication to developing and implementing targeted strategies has significantly reduced the need for students to leave the classroom for support over the past 2 years. By collaborating with teachers and creating personalized intervention plans, she effectively addresses challenging behaviors, promoting a more positive learning environment. Ashley's readiness to assist throughout the day, always carrying a walkie-talkie to support students as needed, exemplifies her commitment. Additionally, her involvement in cafeteria coverage, morning arrivals, and other duties highlights her dedication to the SES community. The students and staff at Sellersville Elementary School are indeed fortunate to have such a devoted and integral part of their team. So, congratulations.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Our next award is our Spirit Award. This award is given to an individual or individuals who embody the spirit of Queen Anne's County Public Schools. Our nominating principal is Miss Crystal Chambers from Mattapique Middle School. If she'll please come forward. And our January Spirit Award is Mr. Joe Nickens. Your principal has some nice things to say about you as well. Mr. Joe Nickens serves as our nighttime custodian at Mattapique Middle School. He is truly an asset to our entire building. He works tirelessly every day to maintain a safe and clean working environment for our staff, our teachers, and our students, and does it all with a smile. Joe is simply the best. And here are just a couple. There's a lot of different comments on here, so I'm only going to pick a couple, but I'm going to give them to you because they're very powerful. So Mr. Joe is the man. He comes in every day with a smile on his face, ready to work and help out with whatever he can. Thank you, Mr. Joe. You are very appreciated. Mr. Joe, thank you for going above and beyond for Mattapique Middle School. You always have a smile, stay positive, and work hard to keep our school clean. You are a huge asset to our school, and it is an honor to work with you. Thank you for everything that you do. And the comments go on and on. So congratulations, and thank you for being who you are. See, there's 2 pages.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
And our next award is the Shining Star Award. And usually I would be doing this, but I'm going to ask Mr. Michael Bell, who is our supervisor of fine arts and a lot of other things, to come up because he likes to stage, and this is right up his alley. And he does such a good job with it. So welcome, Michael, and thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Salins. We're very excited to present the Shining Star Award for the month of February to several performing arts students and dance instructors. Please come up when you hear your name. First, we will honor Queen Anne's County High School dancers that were showcased in the QACPS Artwork of the Month Spotlight. And we'll start with Katrina Gromley. Kaylee Olin. Addison Redmond. Mia Tucker. Congratulations. Helen Willard. And I'd also like to recognize Isabel Ruth and Savannah Vega, who couldn't be here tonight due to prior obligations. This was the first time in school history that Queen Anne's County High School had a performance selected for this prestigious All-State Maryland Dance Showcase, which was held at Goucher College on January 10th, 2025. So next up is our QACPS 2025 All-State Dance Medalists. And we'd like to start with Katrina Gromley, since she's here. Please step forward. And Ms. Tyler has something special to present.
I do. Since you missed the formal ceremony, my voucher, I wanted to make sure that you got the person.
And from Kent Island High School, I'll start with Dylan Miller. Dylan? Didn't make it? And Nadia Wilby. And Nadia is our very first back-to-back All-State medalist from Kent Island High School. Congratulations. And finally, I'd like to recognize our outstanding dance instructors. We'll start with Kristen Tyler from Queen Anne's County High School. Also our lead performing arts teacher. And Amber Wright from Kent Island High School. Our former 2020 Teacher of the Year. Right over here. Do you know if Gabby's here tonight? Have you seen Gabby? She is. Is she here? Okay, perfect. And last.
Stuck together.
Okay.
One of them might be stuck together.
All right, we'll get you.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Found it. And last, I'd like to bring up Gabby Pfeiffer, who is choreographer of the Queen Anne's County High School Maryland State Dance Showcase, intern for the Carol Cassio Fund for Mind Movement and Dance Connections, and she's also a former All-State Kent Island High School dancer. Gabby Pfeiffer. So congratulations to our incredibly talented dancers and their talented dance instructors.
Everybody that wanted to work in the middle. Robin, there we go, perfect, okay. All right, and it looks like you should stay in your place after I'm done, okay. All right, look at me, ready? Oh, Miss Capes, there we go. 1, 2, 3. And I'll get out of the way so everybody.
Thank you so much.
It's gonna cool down in about
Yeah, it
14
will. In
seconds.
about half the room leaves.
I'm so hot.
Mass exodus.
Sweetheart. Yeah, that's what you look for.
Miss Ray, thank you for coming. Did you get any pictures of the two of you?
I did. I'll
Can you
send
send me
whatever
one?
I got to send you.
Thank you.
Well, I saw someone else. Really? Good job. Congratulations.
All right, good for Daddy, okay? Did you ever find your brother?
That's what the school emblems on. The dancers have really nice jackets.
Those dance shows.
It was big.
You guys could stay for the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Harding leave already?
I just haven't.
Yeah, no. Might not be there. It's okay.
Thank you.
We will be back with you in 1 second. Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of our award winners. We now move into a section we call board involvement. Who would like to start?
Obviously, you did something.
All righty, what you got?
So I went to the art winter ed at the Chesapeake College.
How was it?
It was good. I didn't realize, I thought it was going to be a large group of people doing it. When I went, there was a lot of teachers that were there. Mr. Bell was there, and the girls went with me, so they got to play. But it was an online teaching instruction, and they were kind of utilizing the subscription there with all the materials and stuff. So it was great. It was open to everybody, but we went and we spent probably an hour there. But it was awesome. I finally made it to something, and I'm going tomorrow. I think there's a swim meet at Club One. Oh, good. You can time. Oh yeah. So, I know. So, but it wouldn't matter for today. But I did get to go somewhere. Of course, kids in tow. But yeah, it was wonderful to see. So.
Next.
I was able to attend my first citizens advisory meeting. It was very enlightening. Got to able to listen to concerns and questions and comments that the people who represent their school districts had to say. So I hope to be back.
Nice. Anybody else?
Yes, I went to the Citizens Advisory meeting as well, and I went to the SSIC meeting, and I also went to the Crosstown Rivalry basketball game. Got to have some good conversations with folks. Wasn't much of a game between them, unfortunately, but it was good to get out and see the ball players out there, both the guys and the girls, and speak with some folks. So it was nice.
Very nice.
I went to a swim meet, Ken Island. I'm looking forward to seeing Queen Anne's tomorrow as well. I caught the end of a basketball game. It was amazing. Thanks for the Ken Island shirt, by the way, too. It was against St. Michael's, and I'm not usually into basketball, and that game was amazing. And we won, so anyway. And I also went to new board member training that Maeve held, and the legislative meeting, and then also the legislative day in Annapolis, where Shannon did a great job speaking.
I had to bring it up.
Yes, I did.
So I also attended the legislative meeting. There are a number of policies that are being looked at. Just for people in our district, there are 4 phone policies that members of the legislation have brought forth. The legislative committee is collectively pushing back because most of the district, including ours, have our own phone policy. And so we think that the ones that have been put out are a little overreaching. So more information on that to come. We'll see how they make their way through the legislature. There was also legislative day where we got to listen to some panelists talk about the state of things that's going on, and not only in Maryland, but in the country with regards to schools. Some things that we should keep in mind as we move forward, and we also got a chance to talk to a few of the legislators, tell them what we're thinking and how they need to fund us more. So, any go backs? All right. Student board members. It's
my turn to start this time. We take turns starting.
That's right.
It's very
All right. So there's not much going on in the month of February, but tomorrow night, actually at 6:30 in our school, there is a National Honor Society event. It's a dodgeball tournament supporting Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and all the money proceeds raised from the team members. Each team member will pay $5 per person to participate, and then we have like a bake sale table, and all that money will go towards the society. And then this weekend we have all shore chorus auditions. Wednesday the 12th is spring sports orientation, and the spring sports start on March 1st. Then as of this week, all 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, or not 12th, 9th, 10th, and 11th graders have submitted their new schedules for next year. So that's completed. And then our spring musical, which is Shrek the Musical, that will be showcasing on February 28th and then March 1st, 2nd, following weekend, the 7th and 8th, and the 9th. And then our advisory period, the period after first period, that's half an hour, that's still going well. Students are learning new skills for studying and time management to help us finish the year strong and on a good note. And that's all that's going on for us.
We don't have a lot going on in February either. Today we had learner's permit testing, spring sports orientation, and Air National Guard lunch visit. Tomorrow, we're having a visit from Coastline Pools for lifeguard positions. The 7th, we're having a sophomore career awareness tour at Chesapeake College. And then the 14th, we're doing more learner's permit testing. The 18th, we're having a U.S. Coast Guard lunch visit. The 19th, a U.S. Navy athlete visit. And the 20th, we're doing a meeting for Introduction to Careers in Healthcare in Chestertown.
Very good. Thank you very much. Dr. Salins.
Yes, I'm going to veer a little off from what I normally do. I want to take this opportunity to ask that as a community, we continue our thoughts and prayers for the Funk family who lost a father, a brother, a son, a husband, and that I just ask that everybody continue to support them in their grief at this time. And there's lots of ways you can help. And if you need any of that information, you're welcome to call my office, and Mrs. Dennis will be able to assist you in how you can support them. So my thoughts and prayers continue to be with the family.
Thank you very much. Now we have 2 presentations. We're going to talk with MABE Executive Director, Mr. Nagel.
I'm going to invite Dr. Shirley up here too, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Very much okay.
I just assumed that liberty, so I appreciate the flexibility. Now, if I can follow instructions from before. Yeah, you're probably going to have to. Oh, there it is. That was the button. Yeah. There we go. Well, you could have saved yourself some time before. Yeah. Good evening, Dr. Salins, members of the board, President Bent. Milton Nagel, the Executive Director at MABE, in my 2nd year in this capacity at MABE, my 4th year overall at MABE. And prior to that, spent a career in Caroline County. So I'm a lifelong resident of the Eastern Shore, to the south, actually the south end of Caroline County. But, come before you tonight on behalf of MABE to provide you with an overview of what a search process is about. MABE does provide, offer it as a service for an additional fee to conduct a superintendent search process. And Dr. Shirley here, who's retired superintendent from Caroline County, ironically.
But a resident of Queen Anne's
But a resident of Queen Anne's County, has participated in superintendent searches in the past. So, I'll just get that formality out of the way. That's not why we're here. It is not, when we build our budget at MABE, does not include a component for superintendent searches. If it's something that boards want us to do, we develop a budget based on the search committee and a little bit of extra for some unforeseen costs that may exist, but it's designed just to be a value-added service where the costs that we charge to the board would be the costs that we incur. Your chief counsel here, Adam, is also affiliated with a school board in which we performed a search last year. So he's familiar with the process and can provide you with additional information as to the agreement if that's something you want to pursue. I assume you've had this content, the presentation. I'm not going to read it to you. I'm just going to go through and make sure that you understand from. I probably can't use the mouse. I'm going to need more help. Oh, that's right. You did tell me that. Yeah, it wasn't you. Well, I'm really challenged here tonight. So, here we go. Overall, this is one of your biggest responsibilities, and that is that of selecting, the superintendent. And so, the purpose is to conduct a process that's thorough, responsive, and fair. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, it's not legally challenged, so that you have crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And throughout that, in conducting that process, the leader that's going to lead the school system for the next, hopefully, several years. So this presentation is broken down into 4 different components. And we'll jump right in to the planning phase. And when you select a consultant, the first thing you're going to do is to discuss with them, or in determining who your consultant's going to be, make sure that that's a good fit for Queen Anne's County Public Schools, that they, check some of the boxes here. And then you're going to want to know, what are their fees going to be? That you're going to want to know what their process and timeline is to make sure it matches up, because the clock is ticking. Because by law, you need to have a signed agreement with the superintendent on or before July 1. And so you have to create a timeline that backs into that to allow plenty of time for, making sure that it's approved by the state superintendent, and you can, work out the details of the contract. And if it's somebody not from the immediate area, that they have time to relocate. A couple of things already addressed there. The third bullet, confidentiality protocols. There's part of this process, you're going to be identifying candidates that already have jobs elsewhere. And so they're going to not necessarily want to be that known that they're applying for a position here while they're also gainfully employed elsewhere. There will be a time and a place for that, but that's where confidentiality really comes into play. And you're going to get pressured by your community to, well, who's applied, and tell me. And, it only takes one leak, and it's out there, and you could potentially damage somebody else's professional reputation, especially if they end up not becoming a finalist. So confidentiality is key. You will want to identify a spokesperson for the board to speak on behalf of the board. And that is, certainly very, very key throughout the process. You're going to probably want, stakeholder input. Both, stakeholders can be identified as your community, as staff, as students, business community, parent community, and how are you going to gather that input from your stakeholders? And so that's what you will work through with your consultant. And then that stakeholder input will help to develop characteristics of your superintendent. Your search consultant should work with your staff here at the Board of Ed to develop advertisements, most of it's online now, but what does that look like? How are you going to cast the net? Because once you post that vacancy, whether or not you may not want it to be a national search, but it is with the power of the internet. It's going to be, shared and liked and pushed out. And some of that you can make a conscious decision on your own to go through some national publications that outreach to existing superintendents and others. And but regardless, as soon as you put it on your website, it's open to anybody and everybody worldwide to come and look at it. And there could be a number of people that don't know where Queen Anne's County is, let alone what is it about Queen Anne's County that should attract them to you. So your consultant should be working with your existing in-house staff to develop all that material and get it out to the various places. You're going to want to, make it attractive, showcase your district. What is it that is why you're here as board members? What is it that you love about Queen Anne's County? What makes it a special place to work and to live? And that's really that whole, advertisement and recruitment process there. This is extremely important. Your consultant better have a very good relationship with MSDE and their certification department, because the last thing you want is a candidate to get through any part of the vetting process that doesn't meet state certification requirements. They have to be eligible to be superintendent, and that's spelled out in COMAR. And, that is a component that you really want to stress to make sure that they're very affluent, because there's two different ways of being certified. There's a traditional certification as outlined here, and then there's a reciprocal certification for somebody that may be coming in from outside of the state. But that is key to the last thing you want is to get down to a finalist and then find out that they can't be approved as a superintendent by the state superintendent. From MABE's perspective, we have historically, any candidate that meets the criteria and that meets the certification, you get to see them. As a search consulting, as a team, we don't take it upon ourselves to decide which candidate would be good for Queen Anne's and which isn't. That's the board's decision. Some firms, though, may have a different process, and that's a question you want to ask to make sure, if you get 50 applicants that meet the initial certification requirements, do you as a board get to see all 50, or does the search consultant, weed them out and come based on the characteristics that you've identified as your ideal candidate? And that's a decision you as a board need to, come up, understand and come to grips with, because if you want to see all 50, that's going to be a pretty significant time, ask of you as a board to rank them and determine from there who gets selected for first round interview, et cetera. And then you're going to have to, again, work with your consultants to identify what those questions look like and conduct your first round interviews. And then usually there's a second round. First round is usually pretty scripted, at least from our perspective. Means that every candidate gets the exact same questions, because you don't want there to be, and there's no really add-ons. It's really scripted as far as the questions, and you tally the results based on that, and then that determines your second round, where you narrow the list down, and that's where it's more open-ended. It's more of a discussion with the candidates, and to conduct those interviews. And then from there, you pick your finalists, and that can be whatever number you're comfortable with. It could be 3, it could be 4. Again, working with your consultants to determine how many you want to take then to the public, because at that point, the process becomes public. Once you announce your finalists have to be comfortable with the fact that, hey, we're getting ready to put your name out there. You need to, if you're gainfully employed, wherever, you need to make sure that they are aware that we're getting ready to put you as a finalist. And that's a, conversation that your search firm will have with them at that point. All throughout this process, as you're weeding down that list, your consultants are doing additional screenings, additional deep dives into their history, calling folks that aren't on anybody's reference list to make sure that who the public-facing candidate really is, because you don't want any surprises. People tend to put down as references who's going to give them a good reference, but your search firm needs to do a much deeper dive than that and find, and look into the community, see what's out there, and ultimately, and that as that list gets whittled down, that dive becomes a lot deeper, and to make sure that you're really going to get a good candidate at the end of the day. And at that point, once you've had your finalists and they've met with your various stakeholder groups and you've gotten feedback from that, is when you'll, as a board, hopefully come to unanimous consensus over who your candidate is. And that is very important, in that you need to collectively support whoever he or she is. And that you may, when you as a board member sign up to be a board member, you all come to the table with different opinions and different priorities and different perspectives. But at the end of the day, I hope and pray that each one of you wants the very best for every child in Queen Anne's County Public Schools, the very best school system possible for your community. And as such, it's key that whoever you select as your next leader needs your unified support to be able to be successful. And if it's not a public 100%, yes, this is our candidate, this is who's going to lead this school system, then they're already starting with a little bit of a, behind the curve. And now, Privately, you can say, hey, you know, we've got some work to do, but publicly, it really needs to be a very positive, forward-facing process. You will work with counsel to negotiate, you know, the contract and the specificity, and hopefully do that and have all those T's crossed and I's dotted before you make a public announcement and public session. But ultimately, that will be a public announcement, hopefully long before June 30th, so that you know, you can have press release and get amongst the business of allowing the superintendent to hit the ground running. So everything that I just went over is now, you know, put in this this one-page grid, if you will, that so you can see on the far right-hand column what the duration looks like. So you're right in the time frame for doing it, but you don't need to spin your wheels here. You need to make decisions sooner rather than later if you're going to go through the process. What I haven't shared at all here is that, you know, if for whatever reason, I mean, this isn't the only way you can do this. You can also appoint an interim superintendent if there's such, you know, if you're not of a mind that you feel like you have enough time to do it, or for whatever reason. Wouldn't be the first time, but you know, there are boards that do make interim appointments to allow more time to think through, or if they feel like they've got a good person on board that they'd like to have a process, you know, have a shot with. Conducting an independent search helps to validate if there is a good internal candidate, that is the best candidate for the position. But again, there's no requirement in the law that says you must do this. Okay, this is just my role, and part of the part of your dues is for me to come out here and explain what the process looks like of conducting a search. There's nothing in COMAR that says you must conduct a superintendent search. So just trying to be transparent there on that. So in summary, I think we're close to the end. I don't have it committed completely to memory. A couple more slides. Your role in controlling the process, confidentiality, I stress again, it's key. Confidentiality. Choose your consultant, choose wisely, develop your parameters, you know, have a spokesperson on behalf of the board. Doesn't have to be your board president necessarily. It can be whoever you as a collective group decide to be the person that speaks on behalf of the board as it relates to the process, to the press and others. Do your stakeholder involvement. Be as transparent as you can while maintaining confidentiality. And, you know, go through the candidates and select and choose wisely. You control the process. And I've mentioned this already. You have a right to see, in my opinion, all the applications. You decide whether or not you want to see them all or not. Even the ones that don't meet the qualifications to be superintendent. If somebody applies and you want to see every single one, then that consulting firm should be making copies of all of them and put them in a packet for you so you have access to all of them. Got to stress this. The consultant's involvement informs your deliberations, but ultimately it's yours. You're the one's going to live with it. Consultant's going to walk away and move on and go do something else, but you as a board are going to be the ones to have to be satisfied with your decision. So it's crucial, that confidentiality, to ensure for all parties. And I monopolized the time, but he used to be my boss, so.
And mine too.
I knew he would jump in if I.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Yeah. So questions for me or for Dr. Shirley from that perspective, having gone through the process.
I do.
Yes.
So the process, the cost of it can be when I say as much or as little, depending on all the different options that we choose? Like when you were saying, if we want to interview all 50, it's like when you're looking at all the criteria that we can use to formulate it, is it like an all or nothing process in terms of how much we use MABE? Or are there certain parts that MABE pulls back and then we do a little and then it goes back to MABE? Or is it MABE just brings us the final?
No, you'd be paying MABE to walk you through the whole
Gotcha,
process.
okay.
Or any other search firm to walk you through the process. It shouldn't be well, the meter's on today, the meter's off today. It's going to be a fixed fee if you have 50 candidates or if you only have 10. The fee's going to be the same to work with. It's a great question.
I would emphasize that I think it's the most important thing that you will do as a board. And it's hard. There's nothing about it that's easy. And you'll have lots of opinions coming your way from your friends and neighbors and so forth. But you ultimately have to make the decision and live with it. And I just can't emphasize to you, and I know you know because that's why you became board members, but it is probably the single most important thing you will do as a board member.
No pressure.
I don't.
How's that?
Sounds pretty good.
And it's going to be time consuming. So, you need to be, when you start planning dates for the board to meet, to do any aspect of this, you need to come with an open mind with your calendar, that you may have to give up some personal things. You may have to give up some other professional obligations to the extent you can and keep your job in order to make sure that you're all here, all present, to roll up your sleeves and do a lot of hard work.
How many superintendent searches has MABE done?
Well, we did throughout history.
Oh, gosh.
I really wouldn't know.
Okay.
Over 40 probably in the last 20 years, 15 years or so. We did one last year. That was Kent here on the shore. The year before that we didn't do any because there actually wasn't any. And the year before that we did 4. I will tell you that now the teams change. But we do have a pretty, we have a good team here that Dr. Shirley will be, and the team that will do any search on the shore, and we've already been engaged with one other system to do a search on the shore, is all from the shore. It's a shore team, of former administrators. So,
Where do you focus your search on primarily? Do you stick just to the shore? Do you stick just to Maryland? Where do you expand your search to?
that's part of the conversation when the committee starts to meet with you. Where do you want to, once you post it on your website, it's going to be open to everybody, but there's also a number of different professional organizations like AASA, Association of Superintendents, where you can pay to have it posted. We, through NSBA, National School Board Association, there's some posting boards where we can post it there. There's a lot more places have become relatively inexpensive to post posting job announcements for superintendents. But so again, it's a matter of how far do you want to cast it the net.
So are you guys actively out seeking, or are you just kind of consulting with us and just posting for us, or are you guys actually out actively trying to search? Like,
right tonight we're here this is just
I'm saying if we went with MABE, I'm asking like what is your process? Are you actively going out and finding superintendents, or are you just kind of consulting, going through the process and just kind of putting like the job postings out?
Yeah, we do not maintain a database of people looking for superintendents. And that is a distinct difference, could be between us and a firm that's what they do for a living. They probably have a database of potential candidates already. That's not our role.
Any other questions?
If I missed it, did you say the cost that the county would, like how much this would cost?
I did not.
Okay.
We'd have to-
Can we ask that? Or is
We
that-
have to put it together.
Gotcha, okay.
I can submit again, this was meant to not be what I did not want is this to be we're not here to sell anything.
No, I think I
Yeah.
just,
And
for
so
the
I
planning
intentionally
purposes.
did not bring a proposal
All good.
for a fee because I just want to stress what you're about to get into and walk you through the process. So, because the other thing I don't want, because there are companies out there that do this for a living. That's what they do. And I don't ever want to think that we're trying to pull business away from entities that are out there doing this every year, either all over the region or all over the country. But sometimes school systems also, well, not sometimes, I would think school boards make their own decisions as to where they want to go with this. Do they want to stay with MABE, or do they want to, it matters not to me, so.
Has any school board ever not used a firm and done it on their own in Maryland?
Probably.
I'm sure they
All
probably.
right, just wondering.
But I don't know.
Not that we want to or anything, I just wanted to
I mean, I think
ask.
if you're not going to use a search process, then you might just do it on your own. But if you want to do a search, you probably want to go the consultant or a firm route. Yeah, I think it just depends on what you're thinking about what your next step is.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. I didn't know when I was going to get access in here. I brought some goodies. We're always looking, there's a number of committees for board members.
We've seen that form.
If you're looking to serve, I'm going to leave it again. Shannon.
We've actually filled out that form. We had people on it.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Dr. Charlie.
I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to give her some of the other goodies. You can distribute them.
Carrie.
Adam knows how to get a hold of me. So have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Our next presenters. Hazard Young Tia Associates?
That's us.
Did I say the last one right?
You did.
Okay,
Perfectly.
great.
Well, thank you all for having us today. Thank you for reaching out to us to submit a proposal. We appreciate the opportunity to talk with you tonight, and it was very nice. I met your other options. And we will try to move through ours. We do a lot of the same things they do, but I'll try to point out some differences just because I know that's what you're trying to do is compare. So we're really excited. I pulled these images right off your website, but you had some wonderful people here today. I think there's your music director or your art supervisor right there. So we do agree that this is a huge responsibility that you all have to choose your next superintendent. And this is the team that will be here to help you do that. And we will work with you to plan and execute a search that you want for Queen Anne's County. So there are many, many great leaders out there, but we want to find and bring to you candidates that meet your needs. And the biggest compliment we get at the end of a search is that was a hard decision. We had a few candidates, maybe not 50, to interview them all, but we had a really tough time deciding. So this is us. My name is Monica Brown. I'll let my colleague Daryl introduce himself first.
So good evening, everyone. Daryl Williams. Currently, I'm professor of practice and program director at Morgan State University in Baltimore. I was a former superintendent across the bridge, Baltimore County. I served in public education for over 30 years, and I still enjoy this work. I am a part of HYA. We are trained annually about the practices, and that's what we do. We help you to find the best person to lead and serve as the superintendent of your school system.
Thank you. I'm Monica Brown, and I'm a retired superintendent. I did almost a decade, in the same district in northern New Jersey, and retired in 2017. Since 2017, I've worked as an associate with HYA, and just to give you a geographic background, I've worked as far north as New Hampshire, far south as Collier County, South Florida, west as Ohio and Mississippi. And every school division and district is different, but I've enjoyed getting to know and work with boards really across, the eastern part of the United States anyway. Most recently, I actually work at the Graduate College at the University of Delaware. And I work with the executive ed, so we do a lot of professional development for executive ed. I'm also a proud Delmarva resident. I live in Rehoboth Beach, that's where I retired to. And most recently in Maryland, I was on the Anne Arundel search, the Prince George's County search. I led the state superintendent search that just concluded, and the Dorchester County search on this side of the bridge. So between the two of us, we're very well involved in Maryland recruitment and also with Maryland laws. And we know full well that July 1st date is coming, and we will help you get there in a way that works for you.
And I would just add, my last search was in April. It was in Clark County, Virginia. And at the end of that process, the board member said, this is a hard decision. So of course we said yes, because we worked really hard to make sure we had the best candidates in front of the board.
So just to tell you a little bit about us, HYA is a large national firm. We've done over 1,600 searches over the last 35 years. That sounds so long. I've been with the firm since 2017. I was recruited right as I was retiring from the superintendency. But what we do believe is we have that national network. There's over 100 associates nationwide. When we get information, we can get it out across the nation pretty quickly to people who do the same thing we do across the nation. And we have a back office team that really helps us with setting up advertising, setting up, background searches if you decide to do them, getting communications templates that you might need. So we feel very lucky that we do have that support. So this is basically our search process. You'll see it's very similar to what you heard. We do believe there are 4 general phases. Each one of us, we're going to kind of go back and forth and talk about each of the phases. But what's most important to remember is this is the search that you all will plan. We can customize it to what you're comfortable doing as a group. So we'll engage, recruit, select, and transition. And I'm going to start by talking about the engagement phase. So this part of the process is very, very important. I know you have our proposal, correct? And so you see that we'd start with a planning meeting with you. There'd be many questions we need to ask. We would set calendar dates, make sure that everyone is comfortable with different dates for the process. We also ask to do an individual interview with each of you as board members. Then we talk to groups in your community. We were talking earlier, that's one of our favorite parts of the search process is really doing the focus groups, interviews that you ask us to do. Virtual, we can do in person. And we ask all of the stakeholder groups the same questions. And then use the answers from those questions, the themes, to create a leadership profile and a list of desired characteristics. We also have a stakeholder survey that is research-based to learn the state of the district, what challenges you have, and what you're looking for in a new superintendent. So we try to get to as many people as we can and talk to and represent you well in your community. We listen, and then we present everything back to you in a leadership profile, which includes a list of desired characteristics. Once you approve that list of desired characteristics and leadership profile, we use that really as the keystone of the search. It's how we recruit, vet, and recommend candidates, all based on what's important to you here in Queen Anne's County. So I will let Daryl talk a little bit more. We'll go to recruitment.
Yes, so as soon as we have started the engagement part, we will start looking at potential candidates. Because of our network, we already have folks who have uploaded their profiles in our database. And as soon as it's posted, we start receiving information. We have connections with folks in the state and outside of the state. And as Monica shared, We know folks who do this for a living, so therefore we can always reach out, and sometimes we will. We will reach out to our colleagues within HYA and say, here's a posting. Do you recommend anyone? Please send us some information. Candidates will start inquiring about the position. We like to do kind of like a soft interview just to have some conversations about what are you thinking? Why Queen Anne's? You know, tell us a little bit more. And we're developing that list based on, and again, this is going on the same time as the engagement. We're waiting for those themes, and then we start to look at some potential candidates. We can present, as was shared earlier, we can present everyone, or we can kind of group the candidates in categories. Ones that we really feel may meet the criteria, including what the themes are. Some who may not meet all, but some. So we will provide, whatever the desired is, we'll provide you that list. But as soon as we post the information, people start to engage. They want to know. And here's some data, just so you know, in terms of our outreach. We have over 100 practicing associates. So immediately we can do an internal discussion, like we have this vacancy. Do you know anyone? And then we can go nationally to other associates throughout the United States to see if there's some interest.
And as what we found over the years is that in about over 60% of our searches, the successful candidate is someone who wasn't going to apply on their own, that we reached out to. We looked at the challenges you're facing. We've looked at people who have met similar challenges successfully and recruited them and said, this is what Queen Anne's need, and we know you can do it. Please come talk. And so we take it very seriously to make sure that the people we recommend will be people who can meet the challenges you have and add to the community and have the community values that you have too. As far as recruitment also, even though we're national, we're also a regionally based team who knows people here. When we talk in the planning meeting, you all will tell us how wide you want your advertising to go. As Darryl was saying, going on our website gets you the looks. People who are looking for a job as a superintendent, most of them check out our website. However, we will create with you an advertising strategy that works for you. Regional, national, whatever your decisions are. We do have, because we do so many searches, we have agreements with Top School Jobs, with some of the other major advertisers, so you can choose a package. And I know you have the brochure and the packages are in there. But what we'll do is we'll recommend a package based on what you feel you need as a district. And then we go to the selection phase. And as you were saying, we will present the candidates to you in the way you want them presented. And let me give you the extremes. I'm working a search in Sussex County, Delaware, where the board president wants to see every single application as it comes in. And then I've worked when we were in Prince George's County, the county executive did not want, she wanted us to do our job, vet everybody, and see the top 5. We will do it the way you want it done. So we'll talk to you about how that is. During the selection phase, we do a slate meeting, and we will work together to interview all the candidates, check their references, do the Google search to make sure that there's nothing major on any major faux pas that might be there. And then we will present those to you at a slate meeting. You all decide how many you'd like us to present. Typically, it's 8 to 10 based on, but again, at the planning meeting, you will decide. And then we also take you through everybody who's applied. And what we've been doing recently is just showing you a spreadsheet, listing who applied, what they're doing now, and why they aren't on the slate. So we help you compare. And then if you see, if Ms. Bent, you see someone, you said, wait, no, I really want to see that person. We have everything there. And we talk about that person. And if you want to see that person involved in an interview, then you can pull them up at that point too. So we're finding that boards really like us to do the work we're known to do well, which is vet candidates based on what you want us to do. But there's nothing to hide as far as, if you want to see everyone. When I say see everyone, I mean see their application. I doubt you want to spend, 50-hour interviews, hour-long interviews. But if you wanted to do that, we work on that too. The selection phase also, after you decide on a slate, after you decide on who to interview, we usually have 2 rounds of interviews. Again, that would be up to you all. We like to do the interviews on Saturdays because that takes people who are currently superintendents, they can get out of their current districts usually easier. Confidentiality is important, and we would recommend that you have a confidential search too. After each of the interviews, by the way, we will be here with you for the interviews. We will help you write a script for those interviews. We'll get input from you and from the leadership profile. We'll give you suggested questions, but of course you all get to decide what those questions are. But then at the end, we don't leave you. We stay with you and help you process the candidates you've seen. We have some great ways. I'm sure this is not the case here, but we have some boards who people don't like each other. So sometimes the conversations after the interviews are sometimes a little bit difficult. We have some processes in place, the Delphi technique, some other things, where everybody can present their ideas, but we can present them to you all as a group, kind of in trends. These are your top 3. These are your bottom 3. These are the 3 who might be in the middle. Do you want to see any of them? And we help you to do that because it is important that the candidate who is successful, everyone can stand behind because that's the only way everyone will be successful. So we'll work with you on that. We also, once you have a selected candidate, we will work with Adam and anyone else you'd like us to help with the negotiations process. Like I said, we did the search for the state superintendent, so we know what goes on there, and we know how important it is to get any contract approved at that point. Did I miss anything on select? Okay, you can head on with transition.
And it's not over. So there's the transition phase. All the information that we gathered through the focus groups, the leadership profile, we have that available for that selected candidate. We're happy to sit down with that individual and go through the feedback in the survey, or that might be something that the board would like to do. But we provide that feedback because that candidate will be thinking about his or her first 100-day entry plan. What are the different groups saying? What to celebrate, and those areas that we may need to focus on. So that's very important. So in your packet, there's opportunities to be a one-to-one conversation or the options that you may desire in terms of the transition phase.
We will come and facilitate a meeting with you all and your new candidate or your new superintendent. It can be before they start or right after they start. With many groups, we'll set the goals for the first year. We'll help you to facilitate to set the goals for the first year of the superintendency. You have an option for a dashboard if you want that to make it known for your community. That is totally up to you. As also part of the transition, that's fine. I also wanted to just point out some of our guarantees. The first and most important one is we will keep bringing you candidates until you find someone you want to hire. So if that happens in the first round, it usually does because, like I said, we do a good job recruiting and vetting the candidates. But if it doesn't, for some reason it doesn't happen, there's no extra fee to continue to get applicants. We just start the advertising process over again based on what you decide and continue to bring you candidates. Again, it doesn't happen very often, but we do offer it in case that is the case. We will do a price match for like services. So if you do have a price that is different, I will tell you that we do more than many firms, so the services are a little bit different. We spend a lot of time with the boards we work with, but we will look with you for a price match if you'd like to do that. We promise, now again, we're in all these searches. I told you I was working all over Maryland. Like Mark Bedell in Anne Arundel County, if he applied here, I could tell you he applied, but I could not present him on a slate because it's been less than 3 years. In other words, once we place someone,
Right.
we don't poach them, because that would be bad. We would get a very bad reputation that way. So we don't poach them unless, by the way, unless the board, there's some friction, maybe the board changes and they say, oh yeah, you can, and then we'll, but that's only if you put that in writing that it's okay. So that would be a decision that you would make. Hopefully that won't happen. I will tell you that our latest statistic is that about 94% of our candidates who are successful fill out their first contract, and then beyond. In other words, they're not leaving before that contract is over. And that we think we're very proud of that because we feel like we do a good job finding a good match based on community values, challenges, etc. Also, lastly, if for some reason your new superintendent appointed with our help leaves within the first year for any reason, or within 2 years, as long as the majority of you stay the same, then we will come back and re-recruit for you a new slate of candidates.
So the board members, majority.
Right. In other words, if you have a huge turnover and then the new board hated what you did, that's on the community. But if you're still in place and the person leaves, or the majority of you, then we would do another round of recruitment. Now, it would still cost you for advertising, background checks, stuff like that, but there would be no consultant fee. I know we gave you a lot of information, but can we answer any questions for you?
I know Kendra has one.
I don't.
What?
I do, but I don't. I feel like it's a lot to digest.
It
so, but I mean, it's all here. I really like the references. I was on, I don't know, I have all the documents pulled up, but it was the references 2017 to 2022. So those are the superintendent searches that you've done.
That's as a whole firm.
Gotcha. Okay.
The ones in the in the actual proposal are ones that we've worked on.
Gotcha.
Because we wanted you to be able to call those people if you.
Yeah, no, I like all that.
So how do you engage stakeholders? Like, how do you find them in the community? How do we know we're representing all our constituents?
That's a great question. So during our planning meeting, you all tell us which groups you want us to meet with. And then we work with your district staff to coordinate. We have an invitation, and then it's sent out on your behalf to invite them to the meetings. We can do up to 24 meetings. And they can be virtual, in person. Like I said, we're here. We can do extra if you need them, especially if they're virtual. We get a little, we do more if you need that. Yes, we'll do as many as you want. And so you all get to decide. For example, when I was doing the search in the Capital School District in Delaware, the Dover area, in their community, the faith-based leaders had a group who met every week and had just a great influence and even in the middle of COVID, we got all of them together on Zoom and did a focus group with them. So you all get to decide based on your community. You might have us meet with athletic parents or arts parents, or maybe just your parent-teacher organizations in general, or just the presidents, or you get to decide, but up to 24.
Question, I see your initial fee here. Do you have a package that we can get separately of the cost of the other services that you have mentioned in here? Those prices aren't in here?
They should be under the fee. The advertising is in the brochure, at the back of the brochure. They would depend on what package you would want.
Right.
I would tell you, I have been recommending package B with the ALAS and NABSI add-on. We found regionally that one does very, very well. It gets you in the top school jobs, the AASA boards, but we're finding that next package C, that written ad in Ed Week isn't showing us much value. So I would recommend that 34, I think it's 34.95 plus the 520. That's what so about 3,900 for that. The survey is 2,000. I think I capped our travel because we're local. It just would be mileage. And then you all would decide if you wanted to do the intense background check at the end. I highly recommend it for your finalist candidate because our background check, we contract out with a firm called Baker Eubanks. They're former state police and FBI agents. They actually do not only, like a regular criminal background check, but any civil suits that people have been involved in, a credit check. So you can know because you don't want them managing school money if they can't manage their own. And a credentials check. They'll go back to the universities. Did they really achieve the degrees they said they were going to achieve? We had a big problem with that in New Jersey. Back in 2008, superintendent said he graduated from Columbia with a doctorate. Turns out he just took the classes, didn't finish. It's a big brouhaha. We all had to send our transcripts down to the commissioner. We do that for you to make sure that wouldn't be a problem. And also a social media check, which we all know can be very important. And that's $19.50. I think I hit them all.
Yes. Thank you.
But again, you all decide. If I'll give you an example. We did in this search in Dorchester County, they actually went after a big search and a lot of great candidates. They actually decided to hire their interim. They knew him. He had been there for many, many years. They decided against the background check because they already invested in him and they knew that would be totally up to you.
And I saw that there was a timeline. Once the board makes a decision, how soon, I see here the week of the next week, but how soon is a turnaround time that we could have a meeting with you to discuss it? Like 24 hours, or obviously not 24 hours, but
we just have to check calendars. I know I have one board meeting next week, but yeah, we would just check calendars and get a date and move forward. And please know that calendar are just suggestions. You'll make those decisions. Some people, I'm so sorry, but I've been in boards where they're like, well, I can't meet on this date. I'm like, no, this is just a suggestion.
No, but it's good to see kind of like the flow of how things would happen and stuff. So.
And you'd see it is a time commitment. Our colleagues from NABE were correct. But what we do pride ourselves on is really walking you through that. And where we want you to spend your time is looking at candidates, not worried about logistics, not worried about, paper trails or those types of things, that we can do that for you and you can really take the time to get to know the candidates so that you can feel comfortable with your decision.
So if I'm doing my math right, it looks like about 32,500 if we went with everything, approximately. Okay, and it would not go over that no matter what?
Not unless you wanted it to.
Okay, like if we did some other service that's totally
right.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. If you decide, which has never happened to me in the over 50 searches I've done, but if you decide, nope, we don't like this. We don't like the people we interviewed. We want you to go back out and we want you to advertise, then the advertising would be additional. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But yeah, it's full service.
Do we have to decide at the beginning, like what contract we want, or is it like as we?
No, so what you do at the beginning is decide on the consulting fee. And once that's determined, then at the planning meeting, you decide on the rest. Okay. That's when you decide what advertising package you want. You also decide things like, there's one other thing that you might want to consider. I'm pointing at you, Matthew, because I just didn't want to forget this. Many times for the very final interviews, for the final 2 or 3 people you might bring back, boards often offer to pay the travel expenses if there are any. You would decide if you want to do that or not. And again, that will determine, are you looking at a regional search or a national search? If it's national, that's a typical thing boards do, but you all will get to decide. Also important things you decide at that meeting are things like, what is the salary range you're looking at? What are the requirements for residency, if you have any, those types of things. So we'll be asking you a lot of those questions at the planning meeting. But it's important for us to know because we want to recruit people who will actually not only be great here, but say yes to your offer. Any other questions? It's truly been a pleasure speaking with you. I hope we don't get the slush they're calling for.
Agreed.
Only if we can get out of here before 10.
Well, we won't keep you another minute. They're like,
Thank you very much for your presentation.
let me know.
All right. All right. We will now move on to citizens' participation. And it looks like one of our speakers left. So, Ms. D'Onofrio.
Nailed it this time. I wrote it down. It's not very lengthy. It just seems that way because I didn't decrease the font before I printed it and I can't see very well. Hello, everyone. I wanted to say apologies. At last board meeting, I spoke out, and that was inappropriate. However, attending these meetings since September, I've become increasingly frustrated as a parent. At the beginning of every meeting, usually before we do the public comment, there's a request for respect. And while I believe in healthy debate, it seems board meetings can head into a divisive direction. Respect should apply to everyone. As I listen and watch board meetings, I am increasingly aware and increasingly infuriated if I see parents or teachers come up here and speak and have people roll their eyes or scoff or sometimes make comments under your breath, which I can sometimes hear being in the room. I don't know how that transfers outside of this room, but it doesn't maintain that respect and it gets upsetting. According to the QACBOE handbook, there is a code of conduct that further outlines be respectful, and it cites through words, actions, demonstrate respect for diverse view, be a positive role model for positive public discourse, practice courtesy, engage in respect, and non-judgmental listening. It also goes on to say be responsible and demonstrate fairness and encourage others to become informed and involved. I see no reason that board members addressing legitimate concerns brought to them by the community about funding should be met with defensive and deflective commentary. I see no reason that we cannot tolerate discussing better options for the future. If the timeline is so short for some of these budgets that it's that big of a problem, then maybe there should be a contingency plan from the start so that we're not left scrambling. Furthermore, the upcoming agenda item that is to discuss, to my understanding, if I read it correctly or not, $750,000 in funding for central office furniture and storage needs, when the greater needs of the teachers and children of the community are going met, seems to emphasize the lack of prioritization for a concerned community. Moving forward, if we want to end the questions about Orlando or some of these other concerns, answer them. We cannot unequivocally state that this is in the past and thus has no context here. The context here is trust and transparency, and people feel a lack of the former when there is an absence of the latter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that this is time for a public comment and we really shouldn't respond, but I would like to say that your comment on the furniture, that is capital money. And if we don't use it for what it's intended, it goes back to where it came from, and we cannot use it for anything else.
So you can't use it for any of the schools in the district that might need new desks or chairs or operation. It can only be used for the Board of Education building and nothing else.
Correct.
That is,
Those funds were allotted back whenever the building was approved to be built. Those funds were approved along with that, and everything that goes into it. So those capital funds were approved.
it's all linked into one project and can't be separated out.
I know.
Very unfortunate.
Thank you. All right. At this time, I would need a motion to approve the HR report that was reported during closed session.
Can I make a motion to approve the HR report as presented in closed session?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item, Mr. Darrell Bricklow. Barraclough? I apologize.
Good evening, President Bent, Vice President Capes, board members, executive team, Dr. Salins. For the record, my name is Darrell Barraclough. I am the Supervisor of Facilities and Design for Queen Anne's County Public Schools. Before you this evening, first project is the Kent Island High School Stadium Light Replacement Project. Similar to what we completed at Queen Anne's County High School last year, we reached out to the lighting manufacturer on a sole source basis. That manufacturer is Musco Sports Lighting. We contacted them, requested the replacement of the stadium lights while reusing the existing light poles. Creates a good economy for the replacement, saves the light poles from being replaced at that additional cost. Musco is the manufacturer of the current lighting system that's out there. Musco in turn would reach out. They received pricing from 4 different lighting installers: Dalton Electric, Eastern Sales and Engineering, Freeland Electric, and Lighting Maintenance Incorporated, or LMI. The 4 prices that were received, Eastern Sales and Engineering was the lowest, received at $53,916. So what we're requesting is approval by the board for the issuance of 2 purchase orders, one directly to Musco Lighting, which would be for the purchase of the materials for the actual lights themselves and any of the incidentals, the panels, the program that gets built in, as well as the actual controller that sets in the press box. The second purchase order would be to Eastern Sales and Engineering. They would be the contractor that does all of the wire pulling, brings the crane on site, sets the standards, does the aiming, and basically does all of the labor on the project. And then the 2 work together at the end of the project to do all of the programming and set all of the lighting up to meet the foot candles and such. So with that, I believe I can take any questions.
Are there any questions?
How long are the lights good for? Like, how long do you have to do this again? I see the original ones were 1998.
Yeah, these are actually LEDs, so there should not be any bulb replacement, but we should easily expect 25 to 35 years out of these lights.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion for approval?
Make a motion for the Queen Anne's County Board of Education to approve the purchase orders for Musco Sports Lighting, LLC, and Eastern Sales and Engineering Company to provide the materials and complete necessary installation, labor, and equipment to replace the stadium lights at Kent Island High School. The fiscal impact is $3,007,122.00, and the budget source would be local FY26 CIP funds.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item.
Thank you. Next item up is the central office furniture purchase. This project, shortly after the central office construction drawings reached their 100% completion level, Queen Anne's County Public Schools began the process of storage shelving and furniture layout and design. QACPS reached out to 2 separate vendors who have served Queen Anne's County in the past: Duron Furniture Solutions of Owens Mills and WB Mason Interiors of Columbia, Maryland. Each vendor met with the architect and QACPS staff to establish the requirements of each space and general parameters for the furniture and storage. The vendors provided QACPS with a layout, a room-by-room furniture breakdown, and an initial rough order of magnitude cost summary. After this information was reviewed, each vendor was given the opportunity to conduct an in-person presentation with Q&A to the QACPS executive team. Afterwards, Each vendor finalized their furniture package and provided a formal quote and were asked to set up a typical office and cubicle arrangement at the current central office for further review and evaluation. We did have many staff members, some of you even came and took a look at the furniture that was placed in the mock-up upstairs in the third conference room. By unanimous vote, the Queen Anne's County Executive Team selected WB Mason Interiors as the vendor who provided the lowest quote and in turn provided the highest selected between the two. Their quote is for $698,069.16. And on that, we're asking for an additional 7% contingency so that we can work through each room. We're going to go through each room and make sure that the contents of each room works with the different architectural items such as windows, doors, and those sorts of things, so that if a partition needs to be lower or taller or whatever the case might be, that we have the funds, that we're not coming back and asking for additional monies for that. Obviously, if the 7% contingency isn't used, it would go back into the equipment budget and be used for other equipment that's necessary for the facility. Any questions?
Does the furniture have any kind of warranty on it? Like if something breaks or?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that was one of the things that was presented during their presentation. WB Mason brought in the manufacturers, both from Hahn and Space Savers, to talk about their warranty. Typically, a furniture warranty is based on the life of the furniture, and they base their life on about a 12-year cycle. So that's what their warranty is, and they've said that they will come back and honor those warranties. Obviously, that would be in writing once we go to contract with them and all of that. But they've made a commitment to, they've made several commitments. First and foremost, their commitment, they gave us a price in early January. Their commitment is they're holding that price firm and fixed until April, which is great because it gives us time to do these kind of things and work out all of the other details. But they've also made the commitment for the warranties, and they're coming direct from the manufacturer with those warranties, so.
Okay, and will this take care of all the furniture, or is this like just a starting phase, like we have a phase 1 and phase 2, or this will fully furnish the whole?
This is everything with regard to the central office. It takes care of all of the desks and furnishings for the offices, the cubicle spaces. It takes care of the metal shelving for the storage rooms. It takes care of all of the board, executive chairs and things like that. It takes care of the audience seating. It also provides the current flexibility for some of those spaces, like when we're not having board meetings here and we have right now we're using the banquet tables that look like they need to be replaced, and they do need to be replaced, but we bring out the banquet tables and set them up for different arrangement. It includes a lot of those different aspects as well to give us all of the flexibility that we need to keep these spaces in use for different things like board meetings versus, whether it's a round table event with different administrators or what might happen. So we do have a lot of those different things built into this.
Okay, and then I know it's been asked before, but all the furniture that remains in this building, it just stays here? It goes with the building, or does anything go over to the new building?
We're not looking to take anything over to the new building, but what the process would be, it would be similar to what we discussed at the last board meeting with regard to classroom furniture. So we would let the schools that are in the county know if you need a teacher's desk or you need an administrator's desk or whatever, and we need something replaced immediately, we can come here, flag it, and take it to the facility for use, and then it would go to the same would go then to the county level. So we would put it out to Queen Anne's County if anybody needs anything. And then it goes then for the whole recycling thing, just like we talked about with the school furniture.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Maybe just real quick, explain the budget, like how it was budgeted, and explain that, just
Certainly.
so everyone knows.
Okay, when the county commissioners decided on the construction for a new central office, they budgeted the construction over 2 years. So they provided approximately 50% of the construction budget in FY '24, which was 2 years ago money roughly. And then in FY25, which was just last July 1 money, they provided the second half of construction funding. And then in addition to the construction funding in FY25, they provided $1.5 million for fixed furniture and equipment. It's an abbreviation for FFE. So FFE is, it's not really just truly office furniture. To give you a few examples of things, for example, we have a server room that's going to be at the new facility. None of the equipment that's in the server room is purchased by the construction. It's actually being purchased by our ComTech folks so that we know what we're getting. We can specify exactly what we want. We can get the servers that we want. We can specify the switches that we want. Those types of items are being purchased out of this $1.5 million line item. In addition to those things, we brought before the previous board, I want to say about 6 months ago, the purchase for surveillance cameras and the purchase for access control. Those two items, I want to say, were somewhere around $125,000. I'm going truly from memory, so don't quote me on those numbers. But those two items as well were not in the construction budget, and they weren't in the construction budget for very specific reasons. Some of them are that we have our own security contractor that we bid through an IDIQ. We don't want a lot of unknown people in our surveillance system doing things that we're not, they're not to our standards and we're not familiar with them. So we want to keep that all under the one umbrella with that company. So we specifically excluded that work from the contract. The backbone wiring for all of those systems is in the contract. So all of that's being pulled. That's what's being pulled behind the walls and all of that right now. But the physical purchase of the camera, the installation of the camera, and then all of the software and programming that's necessary for access control and the surveillance camera, that's all what's being purchased also out of the equipment budget. So there's a lot of things that's going into this 1.5
And it
coming
looks-
out of.
And is that going to complete the building? Does it look like it's going to?
We are within budget, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not over budget on anything,
Okay.
so we're in good shape.
Great.
Just so everybody's transparent for the community, the funding was approved when the construction was. The funding can't be rolled into operations budget, so we are unable to do that. Yes, the question has come up. I'm just trying to be transparent for the community because the questions are going to come up.
Keep going.
So this $746,000 is not able to be rolled into the operations budget. We would all like that to happen. We would all like to help that section of our budget, but it cannot. This is part of the local CIP funds. This is approved and paid for by the county and the commissioners, and that's where this money is coming from. It is not coming from the operations budget. We're not doing this in lieu of taking teachers' jobs or taking away from the other operations of anything that we're trying to accomplish from that side of the house. This is not funding from that. So I just want to put that out there so everybody is tracking and everybody knows. So that's where this money is coming from.
That's correct. And just for additional information, one of the other things, I guess, that has a question that's come to me is the possibility of relocating furniture from here to there. It presents a lot of difficulties trying to do that. Anybody who's gone back through the whole process of where we've gone from feasibility study to the different design stages, the new building is about 30% smaller in size than where we currently are. So everything from the office furniture that's here is really not going to be compatible with the designs of the new spaces. The new spaces, we have a lot of cubicle spaces in the new space. We don't have a lot of cubicles that are here that could even be relocated, let alone if they would fit or not. So we don't want to try to complicate the matter of taking a new facility and trying to take old furniture and trying to make it fit, because it's just simply not going to fit from a spatial perspective. But it can also present other problems from a life safety standpoint, because if a desk is too big to navigate around, obviously it's going to impact your ability to get out an emergency issue. But it also has other effects like ADA and other things that our furniture is just not capable of meeting the newer requirements of.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for approval, please?
I make a motion for the Queen Anne's County Board of Education to approve the purchase of central office furniture through the Equelis Group Cooperative Purchase Agreement with WB Mason of Columbia, Maryland. Fiscal impact is $746,934.00, and the budget source would be FY 2025 local CIP funds.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you. Okay, next on the list is Kent Island High School underground stormwater management line repairs, Phase 2 additional funding. This project has been before the board before it went up for review, I want to say March or May of last, I think I might even have it. I'm sorry, it is in here. No, it isn't.
Summer 23? That's when it began.
Well, it began, the original project, Phase 1, the county took the project on, and it was originally clearing around the stormwater management ponds. That was completed in the summer of 2023. When they started that project, they discovered that a lot of the underground stormwater lines and inlets and other structures that are serving the stormwater management, we're also talking about asphalt runoff, as well as rainwater leaders and roof runoff. All of those devices had a lot of significant issues with them. I included several photographs from some of the things that were discovered in this last phase. We've got sinkholes that are coming in. We've got inlet structures that are essentially caving in and falling apart, which is creating asphalt sinkholes and surface problems. And we're also getting a lot of root problems with roots and tree growth in the lines, which is basically choking off any type of stormwater relief from the rain leaders coming from the building. So we had originally gotten a quote from the contractor to complete the Phase 2 portion of the project for $639,339.40, and that was on May 15th was when that was presented to the board. They have gone through and exhausted those funds, and we are still in need of completing some work out away from the building. If anybody may have seen the outfield of the baseball field that's out there, there's a sinkhole that's in the middle of the baseball field that Parks and Rec is continually backfilling and planting grass seed in because it just keeps reoccurring. That is a result of a stormwater management failure that's occurring under the ground. It's about 8 feet in the ground in the outfield. So with this additional funds, they're going to begin excavating from the inlets that are in the gravel parking lot down into the baseball field, across the baseball field, and over towards the stormwater management pond. The reason why a lot of this is a cost that's been, we're asking for the additional funds of, is the fact that it is all underground work, and there's really no way to know the extent of things until you start excavating it and you start digging into these lines and you just start chasing problems. And it just is it's exactly that. You're just continually chasing these lines that are full of roots or inlets that are just deteriorating, lines that have become disconnected, stormwater lines that have been set and settling, and they've cracked on the bottom, and it's just creating these sinkholes. So again, this is just additional costs that are unforeseen costs that weren't in the original scope. So we've got an estimate to complete these at $185,600 with a 10% contingency on that for, again, unknowns, for a total of $204,160. And the funding source for this is FY25 CIP local funds.
So
questions?
we're continuing to have this problem, and we're trying to fix it. Should we be including additional repair costs in the budget because we're going to continue to have this problem, or do we think that this set of repairs are going to keep us from having this going forward?
We're hoping, well, I don't want to say that we're hoping. I'm going to say that the materials that are being used in the repairs are not the materials that we're digging up. The materials that are being dug up that lead from the underground line, the leaders that come from the building that head out towards the parking lot, are similar to the black corrugated pipe that you see at Lowe's in the large coils. The piping that's going in those areas is 4-inch PVC pipe. So it's a much better product. It's a smooth wall product, so rocks and gravel and little pieces of silt and sediment and those things won't get clogged in the line. It is, like I say, it's a better product. And then for the lines that are in the field areas, which are the bigger pipes, the 8-inch, 12-inch, and 20-inch pipes, they are using it's a corrugated plastic pipe, but it is a double wall pipe. So it's corrugated on the outside, but it's a smooth pipe on the inside, and being a double wall, again, we shouldn't be seeing any of these other issues where the gravel and things are being collected in the bottom and it's not washing through to an inlet so that it can be serviced. The other thing is that that the contractor is going through and putting gravel bedding material down, so we shouldn't see settlement, cracks, and other things that are land shifts that are creating pipes that are becoming disconnected or cracking and breaking. A lot of that, is just by the nature of it was new construction when it was put in. I don't want to speak to properly done or improperly done. I don't know what I'd have to go back and look at specs and see photographs from when it was. It would just be a big forensic deal to do all of that. But the issue that I see is that we're doing it right now, and we should not see these problems in 20 years. So hopefully that's an answer to your question. A long answer.
A long answer.
Sorry.
No worries. It's perfect.
Question, having root issues, which hampers all kinds of things. Root issues can tear through PVC pipe and such like that. The areas that has become an issue, have we decided to replant those trees so that it doesn't continue to be an issue?
Yes, as a matter of fact, if you're familiar with the student entrance at Kent Island High School, there were several trees in that area adjacent to the main entrance coming in. Those trees, the larger trees, have been taken out. Some of them were taken out essentially just to do the work, but they're not going back in.
Okay.
And then in other cases, like I was saying, with that single wall plastic pipe, the connections on those pipes are just pretty much a snap and click. Whereas with the PVC pipe, it's much more of a fitted, glued connection that doesn't really come apart once it's set. So
Just trying to make sure that, because roots don't care if it's PVC pipe or not. If we're putting them back in the same place, we're gonna have the same issue in 15, 20 years. So I'm just making sure that we're mitigating that factor, which I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence. I'm just making sure, like, as we're approving this, like you said, we don't want to come back to this in 20 years.
Understood.
Next question. So we awarded the 639 the first time. This is going over. Is this 204 going to affect any current capital projects that we had on the agenda? Or is this?
No, this is money that we've gone to the county. They understand the need, and they're very familiar with the project. As a matter of fact, Lee Edgar, the county engineer, is I don't want to say he's partnering on this project, but he does lend one of his personnel. John comes out and is with all of the project meetings that we have bi-weekly project meetings. He's on site. He's kind of overseeing a lot of the work that's going in, as well as me. He's kind of shadowing me and vice versa. So the county is definitely on board with this from that perspective.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
When will it be done? We don't want to mess up baseball season.
We're looking to get started as soon as we get board approval. The contractor is ready to go.
Okay.
So,
And the weather's
I mean,
not
that,
an issue?
but if that's the thing, that's immediately, we've talked about, because we're going into baseball season, so that is actually a fantastic question.
Well,
If you're
and
gonna
that-
break right through,
That would be
you say-
something that I coordinate with Dan Harding and their athletic crew down there. Obviously, we're not going to start work if it's going to impact their baseball field,
So you can go-
baseball season.
Go around it and come back to it.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Because I mean, of course, especially for the seniors, that can be very important. They just have that discussion.
Just so long as there's not a pothole that we lose a kid in. I just want to make sure that's taken care of.
Guess it's good if, whoever we're playing, the ball goes in there.
Oh, okay, well, they're playing. Right. Any other questions?
I had a couple.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
stormwater infrastructure, this is all original to Kent Island when the school was built?
Yes.
Okay. And then has, since I'm sure all our stormwater BMPs drain to the Chesapeake Bay, has anybody at the county side looked into any of the state grants they allow for keeping up with our MS4 permit, that they do like the match planning grants, where since we drain to the Chesapeake Bay, there's...
I did check on that. I did speak with Lee Edgar on that. And what I was informed is that I learned a lot, honestly. MS4, the acronym, is actually Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. So the answer that I got is that the Kent Island High School stormwater system is not a municipal system, even though it does feed off and go elsewhere. It's not a municipal system, no more than the roads and streets or drives going through Kent Island High School aren't county roads. So they're basing it on that same thing. And the answer that I got is that MS4 funds are not applicable to Kent Island's system since it's a private system.
Okay, well, under their MS4 permit, so I'm the do MS4 in Delaware. So they have private and then they have public. So the school would be considered, depending on like what states and how they use it, it would be considered under private. So they have pre and post construction. So it should be, like there should be something, I'll look into it and see if I can find anything for future use, but.
Okay. Yeah, and that was just the answer, like I say, that I got from Lee.
Okay.
It's not, I'm an architect, not a civil engineer.
No, thank you. But,
All right. Can I get a motion for approval?
can I make a motion for the Queen Anne's County Board of Education to approve the purchase order to Martin's Excavation and Hauling of Centerville, Maryland, to complete the remainder of the Phase 2 repairs to the existing stormwater management infrastructure at Kent Island High School. The fiscal impact is $204,160.00. The budget source is local FY25 CIP funds.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think you're out of the hot seat now, right?
For the time being.
School year calendar.
I'm going to come down here so we can flip around if there's questions with the different calendars.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Bent, board members, Dr. Salins, executive team, Dr. Matthew Kibler, Assistant Superintendent. So I'm here tonight to present the school year calendar. I believe at our January 15th, if I'm getting the date right, I talked about the three calendars, how they were put together. You all asked me to go forward with a public vote on the three options, and I'm bringing them all back tonight. Since we didn't really dive too much into the actual calendars and process last time, I just figured I would give a little bit of an overview. You can tell me to stop talking if you would like me to. But basically, the way the calendars are built, we follow the Maryland law, COMAR requirements, Queen Anne's County Public Schools past practices, as well as Queen Anne's County policies 647 and 647.1, school year calendar policy and regulation, policy 424, where we provide employees with at least 3 varied alternatives to the school calendar, and also policy 630, which is a parent conference policy. So we have the three options. Option A is a close mirror to the current school year calendar we have now. Calendar option B is very similar to A. We just did two different things with the way the winter holiday falls next year. We would have a Monday, Tuesday, and then we would be off for Christmas Eve and Christmas. So what we've done from A to B is taken away the Friday before Labor Day and put that as one of those 2 days before Christmas break, and then extended the school year 1 day to have a 2 full week winter holiday. Part of the reason for that is because our data has shown over the years when there are 2 days of school before the winter holiday begins, they are very poorly attended. We've noticed that, and some might say, well, why did we come back for 2 days this year? Well, what's interesting is when you have 2 days at the end of winter break, families send their kids to school. So I think it tells you like it's time to get back into a routine. So that's why we proposed option B this year. And then in working with the both the School System Improvement Committee and the Citizens Advisory Council, we also often get a request to see an option that starts after Labor Day and does not have a spring break. That's what option C does. The benefit to option C is that it's still, with taking away spring break, it's still in school at about the same time of the year. I know that we often get this time of year when we're putting calendars together, especially with the snow, the time of the year we're at right now, we get a lot of questions about how many half days we have. I know that we got some public emails about that as well. I wanted to provide you all with some information and some data about the half days, just to inform you. So counties around us, when I looked at their calendar, this isn't very official, it's me literally pulling up their calendar and counting. So we have 12 days in our calendar if you don't count the 2 final exam days at the winter turnover. Kent County also has 12 days, 12 half days in their calendar. Anne Arundel County also has 12 half days in their calendar. Talbot has 11 and Caroline has 9, so we're not that far off. We get a lot of people that say no students come on half days, okay? So I had our accountability office pull me data on attendance at half days. What I did, nothing crazy here. I went back and looked at October and November half days, and I had them focus on the Fridays. If you go back and look at the calendar between October and November, that was kind of our first stint of some half days around grading and student conferences. And what we found is that a full day average, we have about 92% of our students in school. The half day average in that time was 88%. I will say one of the half days this year fell on November 1st, the day after Halloween. That was not a well-attended day in general. I don't think it's because necessarily just because of a half day. I don't have an official, I don't have proof of that. It's just a feeling. If we took out that November 1st date, I found this really interesting. I was kind of blown away. Our full day average attendance over that time was the same as our half day average at 92%. So it was already close at 92% compared to 88. If you take that day out after Halloween, like I said, that was before a 4-day weekend as well for students. We get the same result. So that's just some data on half days. And I'm happy to talk more about why there are so many half days if you have questions. I also have the calendar survey results. You can see either behind you or in board docs. What I like to do here when we send this out, it was open for, I believe, just under 2 weeks. I think it was 13 days because I think I sent it out the day after our board meeting. It might have been, did I make it on Thursday? Okay, thank you. So 13 days. I closed it this morning at approximately 9 a.m. We had 1,481 responses. This goes to all email addresses we have on file within our system, parents, guardians, and employees. So you can see the overall results in the top left of the graph. Calendar option B was the most popular, and then the breakdown, people that did the survey, they had to choose one of the next 3 options. So everybody after the first graph goes into one of the next 3 buckets. There's nobody that's in any of the other 2. So just parents and guardians, option B was still the most popular. Employees with no children in the system, option B was the most popular, and folks that were both an employee and a parent and guardian, option B was still the most popular. You still obviously have the ability, you set the school calendar. You can make any decision. You can edit any of the 3 options that we presented as of right now too. I'm happy to take any questions.
I do have a question. Could you go over a little bit how, I know we've had several, like you said, emails, and then people ask, like, how do they make the calendar? Why is there so many half days? Because it's hard on parents, and I mean,
Sure.
we all sit here, we all have kids, we know that. Could you maybe explain a little bit the process so everybody watching can get a little better understanding?
Yeah, sure. So like I did start with our half days are pretty much in line with other districts around us. So that's I think one good thing to know. Why do we have the amount we do? So first off, our negotiated agreement that we have with the association says that at the end of each sort of term or quarter, we would provide time for teachers to grade. So that right there is giving us at least 4 just from that, okay? The next thing is, where it's not an actual calendar policy, the board has a policy that's 630 about parent conferences that just talks that we as a community, not just the board, but a school community, believe in parent-teacher conferences. It's a partnership in educating our students. And so that, I believe, I wasn't here when this first started, but I believe in the spirit of that policy, we need to make time to give time for parent-teacher conferences, and that's where many of the half-days come from as well. One of the things that we hear a lot of times is, why don't we just do the conferences on all of the professional development days? Give them full days for conferences, stop with the half-days. It's a fair question, a good point. Our contract allows for 189 teacher work days, 180 student days. So we only have 9 professional development days. We do 5 at the beginning of the year that are for setting up for the school year. It's very important to the teachers to have that 5. At one point we had 4 with a day at the end of the year, and at teachers' request, they wanted the extra day at the beginning. So that leaves 4 more days throughout the year. And we do use one of them for conferences and grading, but frankly, the other ones go to either turnover day at the secondary level for teachers to prepare and school administration to prepare the semester change from semester 1 to semester 2, but also just professional development for our teachers. And so we would be, if we did that, we would either have to renegotiate extra work time or forgo the professional development for teachers. And that's why we're where we're at. And again, I'm bringing this to you, happy to go with whatever decision, obviously.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So there was recently half days at the high school because they were taking finals, and I know a lot of parents thought they were told don't come to school if you don't need to take a test. So, but I didn't realize that the point of that is maybe so they can do the semester changeovers that you just mentioned. Mm-hmm. Okay. And does that affect our attendance, like scorecard, greatly? Or?
So it was kind of a unique situation this year because of weather.
Right.
In general, there wouldn't have been something like that where what we would actually do is any student that had to miss one of the 2 final days, we would actually ask them if they wanted to do a makeup, either to stay a little late from the final day they were there, or come in on one of the professional development days during that turnover time. Because of the furloughs and because of the weather, we missed that turnover this year.
So that wasn't normal.
This
okay.
is a
all
unique.
Right. There's a lot of parents that were like, "What do you mean you don't have to go to school?" So.
And Dr. Salins and I spoke with administration from the schools about if we were in that situation again, how we can do that better so that we don't get in that situation.
Yeah, thanks.
But it's definitely not built that way going into it either.
My one question on the that I'm reading here, it says 3 weather days embedded.
Sure.
I was trying to go through the key and understand it. How are you showing your 3 weather days in this?
So if you, in any of every option's built the same way in that to handle that. So we actually have 5 total inclement weather days. 2 of them are and this is, I'm sure you read it, but just for public watching too. 2 of them are Martin Luther King Day and President's Day. And then the 3 that are embedded, if you would actually count the student days, you would count 183. So what we would do, and this happened to us last year, we would come to you in April if we wouldn't have had snow, and we would say, we want to vote to actually pull the end of the year back 3 days. So if we have no, I'm looking at A, if anybody else is. So if next year we have no closings for school, we would actually come to you in around April. We'll do that this year anyway, to vote on the last day of school. If we had no snow, we would ask to pull that back to like June
26th. 25th.
So there's not like built-in snow days, it's just moving the school.
Correct. And that's the general practice.
Because when you look at it, and if you don't know that, like the public, if you sit here and look at it, they don't see, you're like, hey, you got 3 weather days embedded. You can't really tell which ones are there.
Sure.
That makes sense, absolutely.
You just have to count out the 180.
You can count out the 183 or
Don't know
whatever.
any better to do it.
No, of course.
And there are I don't know if it's fair to say this is how most counties do it. A lot of districts do it this way. Some districts will build days off, like random Fridays or whatever, throughout the school year and build them as inclement weather makeup days. But yet if you don't have them, then you just have that Friday off in February or something like that. So there are different strategies to do it. I believe this has been the practice in Queen Anne's for a long time. It's what I'm used to from districts as well.
So we have 5 days built in. I think I remember, maybe it was December at our first meeting. We talked about the average amount of snow days that usually hit the school district. And I kept seeing numbers that were over 5. So is there a reason why we stop at 5 and we don't kind of go by the average that we're seeing 6 and 7 the last few years? I can't remember exactly the numbers, but what's the average? Because that was one of the questions that was brought up in the past. and I've
Yeah,
seen-
I'd have to defer to Mr. Pender.
We only had 2 last year.
Yeah, last year
we
pulled-
haven't hit the average in a long time.
Yeah, there's definitely been odd years, and this one
this was.
You look at the weather for the next week, but Mr. Pender.
Last year, we were closed 2 and delayed 3. The previous year, we were closed 1 and delayed 6.
Okay, maybe I was looking at the delayed numbers.
It's,
then.
and so last year, we were able to get in because it was right after we were coming back from winter break. So we used President's Day. So then we were actually able to pull the school year back at the end of the year. And the reason we couldn't use, I think we talked about this last board meeting, but anybody that might be watching that missed it. The state board has, even if we put it in the calendar, the state board still has to approve it if we're going to actually open on one of the holidays. And it was just too late for Martin Luther King Day. It's why we could only use President's Day this year.
Then I was reading the delay numbers, and that's
Okay.
Mr. Pender, those delays, were they fog delays or snow delays or a combination?
I believe they were a combination, mainly fog. I mean, there are some, I'm looking at the statistics. I mean, you go back to 2013-14, there was 12 closings and 10 delays. So, I mean, it just, based
Every year's
upon the
different,
weather
right.
pattern.
Yeah.
And the days that we built in by using the breaks, the holidays, I mean, like President's Day or Martin Luther King, we could use other days if the board want. They could say, spring break, the school COMAR regulations for spring break are really the Friday and the Monday. Those are the only 2 days that have to be off. And if you were to go on those 2 days, you would have to get a waiver from the state. But the other days within that spring break, the board could say, we want to designate 1, 2, 3, or whatever amount of those days to be a part of, you know what I'm saying? So it's not just.
And I just want y'all that have kids in school now, I don't want to hear nothing out of you because we only got the Monday and the Friday.
Yeah.
We had to
I mean, I
be in
will
the
have
rest
to
of the
say
time,
that the
so
staff
y'all are
really-
lucky, you get a whole week.
I think the staff really enjoys that time as family time. That really is the only time they can take a vacation. Like parents can really take a vacation anytime they want, right? But teachers and our staff members and support can't. So they kind of use that really as an opportunity as family time. And that's why I think we've really kind of steered away from it. But I was just trying to let the board know what all their options are.
All right.
We've been fortunate the past 3 years. There's always going to be some people that don't get their favorite option, but the 3 years we've done it in this process, we've been lucky that all 3 of the breakdowns are picking the same option.
Since we're talking about delays, can we go over, since we got a lot of not happy people emailing us or telling us in public about the fog delays. I know we live in a big county. I live at the north end of the county. So, I mean, I could go out my door and I can't see 2 feet in front of my face, and you go 10 miles up the road and there's no fog. So everybody, then they got mad about that. Can you explain the process, like how you go through to determine if we're gonna do a delay?
Sure. It starts about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and we have around the county various spotters that are spread out in different geographical regions, and they are contacted along with, and they're out and about, along with myself and Mr. Murdoch for transportation, and 2 driver trainers are also out. We also contact the Maryland State Police. We contact the 911 center at the Sheriff's Department to see if they're having any issues on the roads. Then along with that, we use the state highway cameras, and then we also use our cameras at our school system to just look at, in the warehouse, transportation office, they're all up on the wall, and you can scroll through those. We also communicate with meteorologists at AccuWeather. Like today, I was on the phone with them several times. I mean, it's one thing to get something on your phone, but I really want to be able to talk to somebody one-on-one with the weather pattern and what they're seeing. So we take those into account, along with what our spotters are seeing. We also have several sites around the county that have temperature monitors, so that we can get the temperature part for that. So once we get all that information, we just, start talking amongst ourselves of, okay, we got fog moving in northern section, because of the water on Kent Island, it may not be coming in that way. But when a decision's made, we try to make it at 5 o'clock, because we have buses on the road picking up students by 6 a.m. And you also got to remember, we have buses going across the bridge to special needs schools. So you take all that into account. We like to do it at 5. Many years ago, it was done later, but 5 o'clock seemed to be, hey, that gives parents enough time. The last thing you want to do is make a decision when kids are standing outside waiting for a bus, because that train's already rolling down the road. It's not bringing it back. The most difficult decisions to make are ones where it is fine and it just starts rolling, the fog starts rolling in, at a later point. I will say, like, tonight into tomorrow morning is a tough one, because we're supposed to have sleet changing over the freezing rain around 1 o'clock, and then around 6 a.m. changing over to all rain is what the forecast that, actually I just stepped outside to make a phone call. And, that's a tough decision to make, but that's how our decisions are made. We get, like I said, a lot of information from the State Police Barrack and also the 911 Center. But in a snow situation or ice situation, we're dependent upon the state highway, to get the roads clear. We're also dependent upon county roads, the town of Centerville. In the town of Centerville, we do not have buses to pick up high school students because they fall within the walking distance. So the sidewalks have to be clear. Last thing we want is students walking in the road. But the other question that we get is, how come you can't close one side of the county and keep open the other side? We have a 2-tier bus system where, obviously the first tier is basically high school, middle school, and also Sellersville Elementary. And in the second tier are all the other elementary schools. Those buses that are on Kent Island, we may not have a need for them after the first run. We need them up here in, say, Centerville. So closing down one section and opening up another is not going to help us unless we want to purchase new buses and put on the road.
But the state won't allow us to do that anyways.
Yeah.
The state, well, there's only, if we have to, say we have to close a school for a water main break, and so we have to send everybody home from that school, we literally have to still get a waiver for that school to not meet the 180-day requirement. So we can't just do it by schools. We would have to, everybody has to meet that 180-day requirement or be waived. And so that wouldn't really work how the state runs the program there.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Just, yeah. So everybody, I know you can't make everybody happy, and they complain if we close, they complain if we don't close. So just, kind of like the whole inner workings, it takes a lot for, you know, that decision to be made final.
It's a lot of
Take it
time.
very seriously, and what's really important in my decision boils down to putting 500 high school drivers. That's what I think about. Those are our inexperienced drivers that don't always have good judgment, and why would we want to put them in a situation that could be an endangerment to them and or somebody else on the road, right? So that's really, you know, having had 2 high school drivers myself, I really think about that, putting 500 high school new drivers on the road. So.
Great conversation, great information, time to vote.
Make a motion for the Queen Anne's County Board of Education to approve calendar B as the 2025-2026 school year calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last but not least, the board handbook.
No, can't do it.
So, has everybody had a chance to review the final version that's out there? It was a clean copy set out to everybody to look at?
Yep.
Can I get a motion for approval?
Can I make a motion that the Queen Anne's County Board of Education approve the revised handbook subject to final edits for format and style?
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. So it says that we are due a break, but we've got two really quick things going on. And so I say we push on unless somebody needs a break.
Okay.
All right, regulation 3.1, 0.1 discussion.
Yes, so I don't recall what exact meeting, whether it was first, second, or third meeting of the new board, but this was brought up that the regulation did not match the policy of the board. So the regulation is in the purview of the superintendent. And so I worked with Daryl and took the liberty to update the regulation to match your policy. And so the only difference in there was that threshold change from 25,000 to 50,000. So there's no other changes to the document. Basically, it was to update it to match the policy. Jill, did you want to add any additional information?
No, only the numbers changed.
Just
So
the
any of the
numbers,
numbers that were 10 before changed to 20, 30, or 15 would have changed to 30, that sort of thing, because the
Just to match the
25 to
policy.
50, exactly.
Right.
So everything
Everything else was the same.
doubled.
So it's really just an informational item, but certainly if the board had a question, we'd be happy to try to answer that for you.
When we were discussing that, we talked about getting the information, what transactions over the past year met that threshold that was changed from 25 to 50,000. May we please request that information to get those transactions that are above the 25 but below the 50,000, so that we can see the reasoning that was switched from 25 to 50. You guys mentioned that it was because it was just a lot of transactions and the board wanted to move it up, so it was so low. Can we see what type of transactions and how many of those were from the 25 to 50,000 range?
Sure.
Over the, say, last year or two?
I guess the board had to work
I
together.
can get from our area.
Yeah.
I mean, there are
Yeah.
probably other ones. I don't know,
It's mostly said, that's what
you
I just.
know, but yeah, I can get you what you
Just so
need.
we have an idea of that threshold, so we understand why the board made that decision, because we're here at a board trying to figure out why that decision was made, but we
Sure.
don't really know.
Well, there's a couple of reasons it was made. One, because inflation has increased steadily over the last 12 years, and so something that might have been priced lower, obviously, with the percentage of inflation on it is obviously higher. We also were the only ones that were at that $25,000. So we try to be more in line with what the county is. So there was a couple of different reasons that that decision was made, not just the volume, but there was a couple other decisions that were in that.
I just want to make sure I get what you want correctly. You want the items to range from 25 to 50,000 dollars.
Yes, because the items that would have normally been flagged, that weren't flagged.
And you want
just-
that for
Like fiscal year
current school year
24
or like last school year or what?
Yes,
what
can we
specific
do
range?
the previous 2 school years?
The the previous
This,
two schools?
this current year and then last year.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So 24 and 25.
yes. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Any other questions on that before we move on? So the next item is really just a standing item that the board asked to stay on here. We do have a budget work session next.
It's
Next
not-
Wednesday.
It's next
2
Wednesday,
weeks.
yes.
Yeah, next 2
Yeah.
weeks, actually.
Yeah, and
We have
so,
two. We have two.
we have
2
two,
weeks,
2
yeah.
weeks, right? So, we're, as I think I shared this last time, or actually the board was directed us to create a, budget summary with no increases at all from anybody from state, from the county commissioners, one that included a $5 million increase from the, commissioners, and then what we really need in order to, continue to do business as we are doing this year. So we are working on those. You know, it is challenging without having that CFO position filled, because typically that position would be, you know, responsible for building these summaries, and so we're working on those, and we hope to have some drafts for the board next Wednesday.
Sure.
Some things I did want to discuss is because, Matt, thank you for the P-card information. We discussed last time, you didn't know how many P-cards were actually out in the county. There are 62. And in the month of November, I know at the end of it, it says 105,000, but that was because there was one individual that had a bunch of fraudulent charges that were pulled off. So if you actually go and do the math, that actually brought the number. The actual charges for just on the P cards for the month of November was $109,519.96. Probably 70% of those charges were Amazon charges. Some of the charges on Amazon have line items. Some of them contain like one set of painting. And that's part of the reason why I asked you for the folks who are, because some of them, it made sense when I saw who it was, you know, when we're buying different toys and we're buying things like that. Understandable. A question, this is for knowledge. Again, I'm not attacking or doing anything, but Mr. Pinder, is there, working with Breeze Line, I notice we pay each individual school. Do they not have something we can work together as an county, as a singular account to pay singularly? Or are they charging us each account individually? And why are we paying it on a P card and not having that set up through our accounts? Because I mean, a credit card shouldn't, to me, like that shouldn't be being paid with a credit card.
Oh, that's a great question.
Right, and I saw other things being paid with a credit card that I don't understand why we're paying with a credit card in the first place too.
And that's a great question. So Breeze Line is our local telephone provider, all right?
That's not even the internet?
No.
Okay.
So
I just assume that's
And
what
it
everybody
wasn't-
uses for internet.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't Breeze Line originally, it was Atlantic Broadband.
Yes.
Right.
So for a long time, we have had a problem of getting the bill paid on time. And with Breeze Line, they cut it off, and they were cutting it off while school was in session. And one of the individuals in the finance department came to me and said, hey, in order for this to stop happening, we want to put it on your P card, and we'll process it that way. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And like I said, it's frustrating that when all of a sudden you don't have telephone service at the school because the bill hasn't been paid.
Great. So did we just move into that format and just say, okay, this is how it's going to be gone? Did we look into why that was happening and the funds weren't being released to mitigate that? Because to me, that's a problem happened. So what was the reasoning behind that not getting paid?
That's
It's a finance department issue, and that we've consistently been working on. We've had some turnover in our finance department. If you look at the performance audit, 4 out of the 7 recommendations were wrapped around staffing. Staffing finance offices in the state of Maryland and public education has been challenging. So, you know, we've had a lot of turnover, and it's building, you know, training and
trying to get those people that are there, understanding, what their roles and responsibilities are, and getting them the training they need necessary to be more efficient in what they do. So that's why.
So the first act is to stabilize that department, and then the second
Right.
act would be to figure out how we fix that billing.
Right.
and
I,
do it the
I
other way.
I will add too, the Breeze line, can't dispute anything that's been said. Breeze line in particular as well, when they moved from Atlantic Broadband, they're now, I think their main office is located maybe in Pennsylvania, I don't know if you know, it
Some other
doesn't
state.
matter necessarily. But when we would cut them checks and reference like multiple invoices on them, they were not applying our check at the same, like
To all of the
appropriately
invoices.
to the bills. And that was also, so again, agree with the statement, delays, but also they were getting checks and they weren't able to do it properly on their end and basically refused to do it that way. And would make us go to the individual, one check per bill. You referenced how many different ones we have. We talked about the turnover in finance. So one of the things that was talked about, just to cut down on the number of, it was one way to cut down on the number of checks. And perfect solution, not at all.
So what you're saying, Breezeline basically have straight up said, no, we will not just do a singular overall bill to the county school district?
You'd have to
That I don't,
check.
that part I don't know.
Does that make sense? Because
You know,
they're
so-
billing all this, we're getting billed as a school
Sure,
district.
That's probably different accounts, so.
Right.
yeah.
But that's what I'm,
Multiple accounts that were set up when the schools were set up. So that would be,
so, I mean, is that a question or a conversation we can take to them about a consolidation of accounts into a singular? Because that might actually help releasing the funds, that eliminates some of the confusion, that eliminates, hey, this check was supposed to go there, but they won't do it, and it could just eliminate some of the confusion. And then when we get the new finance department, it actually, we're helping them at the same
Yeah,
time.
and we need to change the way that we pay bills. And we know that, and until we can get the right staff in place and on board, we can't make that change. But we have a lot of paper. It's paper that gets, I mean, Breeze Line, not necessarily, I'm not picking on that situation, but we have a lot
That's
of
just one of the big
paperwork
ones that I saw right
yeah,
now with the
you
P,
know, you
because
have-
it blew me away, it was being paid for on P cards.
Yeah, so a lot of times, like, it'll go through 3 different people of signatures, from the principal to, to Matt, to, it goes through several different people, and then it ends up in the finance office. So you have this piece of paper that's literally going from one desk to the next, and that causes it to slow down. Sometimes it causes it to not get in the right, right place. And so we need to change that. We should have an electronic system
Just gonna
where
ask
we
that question.
can go in and, just like I do for
And it
the
sends
P
him an
card.
alert that it's on his
That's
desk.
exactly right. And
So is there,
so we're working on that. I mean, as I said, it's been challenging. We haven't had that whole department staffed appropriately in at least 2 years, if not 3 years. So that's challenging until we can staff that department and they have been there and they have the skill set. Then we can move to a new system where they can learn how to, or, do it electronically.
but that process, does that, to move a piece of paper to be signed electronically, where you check a box or you put your name or you electronically sign it with ID or however the system works, do you need a finance department to set that up? Because shouldn't that should be,
Well, we actually.
unless it's a program? Because I mean, like, that
Yeah,
could
we
be done
need to
through the
have a
IT
pro-
or some
Yeah,
other.
no, we would need to have a software. There's software
Right.
programs out there, so we would pretty much need to go research it to see what the different ones are, have them, just like we would with the furniture. We go and we listen to a presentation and we say, what are all the factors? These are what we're looking for. And then they would have to give us a proposal and we'd have to look to see what the best fit would be for the district. It is a little bit lengthy. It's going to take a little while to get that completed, but it is certainly something that we have talked about and know that it's something that we need to do.
Can we begin to get that ball rolling sooner than later? Just because we
Yeah.
don't have to have a finance department. So if that's one of the hangups that helps our situation,
Yeah.
we don't have to wait for a finance department, right? We can get that ball rolling
Well,
and get that taken.
I'm not quite sure exactly who in their responsibilities would be able to do that. I really do think it's a finance thing because they're really going to be the ones who are going to have to pull data out of it or have to, they have to be a part of the process. I don't think we can eliminate the finance department. when it happens to be accounts payable. We're talking accounts payable, and that really is a huge component of what our finance department does. And so I think their voice at the table and their expertise, I think they need to be a part of the process. And, you know, looking forward to, we did post interview and are moving to hire a new accountant. And so I feel confident that we'll be able to have that additional resource and be able to start looking at this process and hopefully really by next year be able to get something up, running, trained, and user-friendly for, because we have to train everybody too. I mean, it's the finance department's the one who does the heavy lift of getting it all set up, but then you have to train every administrator and, you know, everybody who's doing all of your approving and that type of thing. So it takes a little longer than one would think. It's not kind of like a real quick, we can do this in a month and have it up and running.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, don't we have 2 accountants on staff right now?
We do, and they are working, they're working really as hard as they can possibly work to keep up with everything.
But if we start putting this system in place, doesn't it help mitigate some of the extra work?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
them being accountants, are they able to help find this software and build this system?
I think they absolutely have that skill set.
So could we get this started sooner than later then? Because
Sure.
we have 2 accountants. I'm just.
Absolutely.
Because instead of waiting for a CFO or something, we have 2 accountants in place already. So this software that we have, or that we need to get, should be able to get input from our current accountants and should be able to go through the process. Yes, I know we got to get the proposals. I understand the process.
Yeah.
But to get that going, and if we just keep kicking the can down the road and waiting, I know it's a process. We got to train everybody. But that's just delaying the inevitable, and we're in such an archaic process at this point in time that these accountants, maybe one of them step up.
I agree. We're all working really, really hard, and
I'm not saying you're
I
not.
agree.
I'm not saying
I
you're not.
agree that it's certainly something that we need to make a priority. And as I said, with the performance audit, well, with all 5 audits, all of them came back to, you know, you need to have it fully, you know, you need to have your finance team fully trained and fully staffed. And we haven't had that. So, you know, we've posted that CFO position since I've been here, I believe 4 occasions. And so it's very challenging to get qualified folks in finance and public education right now. I know that I'm not the only one struggling. I know we aren't. I know that other districts are struggling with that same thing. So as soon as we can move forward with that, we absolutely will. So thank you for that feedback.
I a few more questions. Like I said, I dove 7 hours into just the P cards myself. When we talk about buying electronics, there's CD drives in here, there's USB plugs, there's car chargers, there's adapters, there's verbatim different things. There's several electronics and things that go with computers that are being purchased by multiple different people at the schools. So I understand the process is cool. I'm just going to order from Amazon. We got next day shipping. We all enjoy that. But is there a tracking process? Is there an IT or a technology department that usually tracks the stuff? Because this by no means anybody's stealing, but we know, is anybody tracking this stuff that is being purchased and who has it? Because who's tracking that stuff?
I mean, you'd have to give us specific examples from a specific person's P card, which we can't
Right, we're
literally
gonna
do
do,
here.
yeah,
but
that's
we
gonna
can
be afterwards,
certainly
because
do
we're gonna go
that.
back into closed
Right,
session.
so Josh, who is our supervisor for our IT department, they track all of our equipment. So anything that's purchased, a laptop, it all gets scanned, it has a specific number, we keep a database, we know where everything is, when things get repaired and things like that. Sometimes you need equipment for those. The IT guys buy them. I don't know if you're looking at an IT guy. I don't know if you're looking at an elementary school secretaries. I don't know specifically, but
I can add
Yeah.
to that. So like something like, for first grade to 12th grade, got the 1-to-1 device policy.
Right.
Either Chromebooks, right? So chargers, kids, they break, things like that. So the replacement of that does not necessarily go through Comtech because they don't really have a budget for like the chargers. So the schools end up buying their own supplies. That handles like chargers, but that, for example, so that's why you're seeing that from
Right.
some of the schools.
So we're happy to sit down and go through and explain, any of the specific charges, whether it be, diapers for a GD center or that's something that falls into technology. We're happy to sit down and go through those and let you know.
So I did request to sit down and go through it last time, and I was told no.
I don't recall that.
I said I'll sit down and go through the budget and go line by line and help and look at things and discuss stuff. And you told me no, that we hired you for a reason and you have your staff, that
Right, but
that's your job.
You asked for those reports. We gave you those reports.
Yes,
Now you have
correct.
questions, and we're happy to answer those
Okay.
questions for you.
I was just letting you know, I asked that question last time. If I could, I wanted to sit down and go through the budget and discuss things. And I got feedback from you that we hired you for a reason and hired your staff, that you guys are professionals, and that's why we hired you and let you guys do your job.
But
That is
you,
why I
but
was,
you were not told no. Her comment was, and we can go back and look at the tape, that she was not happy with the request because she was hired as a superintendent and it was part of her job to run the district.
correct.
There was no negative to say. Nobody would sit down and explain to you. You said, I want all of these so I can go, and I can go through them and I can look at all of them. There was never a request to say.
And I mentioned that
And
I would sit
I do
down.
remember the conversation, and I thought the no was about you going to the office and looking at it, like, we don't even need to, I can
Meeting
go.
with principals, you suggested I'll go.
It was,
meet with the
yeah, I'll
principals.
just,
I'll meet with Mr. Pender. I said I'll meet with the principals. I'll meet with
Right.
anybody.
I think everyone's hearing this, I think everyone is like the perception of that conversation, because I think I took it like you were asking if you could just go there and look at it just quickly, not to cause a fuss or make people have to do extra work, because
That's not, yeah.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant sitting down in his
I
office.
think when she said,
Yes.
that's not, in fact, I don't think that's I remember her saying, no, that can't happen, that's not appropriate, or so, it was something to that effect, but I think that's what you meant to do, was to be like, I don't need to make a fuss, I'm just gonna go look at it, but I think it just sounded like I can just go to the office. I feel like we're all talking about the same conversation, just how it was perceived by the two key players. Does that make sense?
So now so we've received the
I don't know if
report.
that helped or.
We've had an opportunity to go through it. You have questions,
Yes.
and you have we have an offer on the table to have you sit with someone and ask those questions, and explanations be given to you. We just need to set a schedule. I will put it on my action list because I've been taking them. And so we will get with
Right. So,
Ms. Dennis to set up a time to have
just
those
so the
discussions.
community knows, we are going to go back into closed session because I do have questions on some of the P cards, who has them and things like that, but it's going to bring up names and positions, which we have to do in closed sessions. So I'm letting them know that we do have further questions. Yes. So we'll sit down and discuss some things, and then the findings that we sit down, we can bring back and be more transparent, so I'm not wasting time, so I'm not taking up more time tonight just going through these ancillary situations. But there's a lot of things. There's a couple extra things I did want to say, though, that I was curious about. I said 62, I said 109. There was over $3,057.80 spent alone on just food and snacks.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we add that up, times it by 12, that's $36,000. I mean, I love our meals that we get here, but when you talk about $36,000,
Right.
couldn't that help pay
So,
for?
A lot of this money, so say you're at an elementary school and the PTA wants to do a breakfast of appreciation for the staff. So, I'll pick on Mrs. Farnell. So Mrs. Farnell says, okay, well, we'll get everything and then we'll charge it to the PTA account. So the principal uses the credit card, but it's charged through the PTA account. So it's not coming out of our operating budget. As a matter of fact, that represents, all of the P cards all year long represents less than 1% of the overall budget. And out of that, no, I shouldn't say the overall budget, about 0.5% of our budget comes through P cards. The other 0.5%, and really a little less than that, comes through different types of grants.
Yeah, I saw
It
that.
comes through your boosters club, sometimes your PTAs and things like that. So, yes, and I would say that we are very social people and we like to celebrate and we like to support through food. And it's very true. We do a lot of, student of the month where you might offer and have snacks and cupcakes for parents to come in, or
We do that, they do it the first Friday of the month at Kent Island, recognizing the students of the month.
So, I mean, yes, I agree.
They
I get it.
have
And I'm all
donuts and
for
coffee.
building camaraderie and rapport and keeping the well-being and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get to a point where, like, when we talk about budgeting, and we're discussing, you said less than 1%, that's still a lot of money when you're talking $118 million. 1% is a lot of money. So when we're discussing things, and we talk about having necessities, so we want to give these things to folks, but at the same time, we're taking folks out of the district. So, I mean, there's a give and take. I'm all for giving pizza parties and cupcakes and stuff. I think it's fantastic. I'm not saying anything like that. I think it's great. We're building a positive, working and educational environment. But at the same time, say I'm trying to build a budget at home. Sorry, family, we're not going to go out to eat. We're going to.
So do you want us to let PTA, give
I'm
us
just trying to
directives.
figure
Do you want
out-
us to let
these are the
PTA
questions that I'm
not
trying
I mean, we're fine if you want us to say that
So
they.
does
no food
PTA
can-
have their own account? They have their own
come
budget?
through. They actually.
They have fundraisers and whatever. We parents pay into the PTA, so they have a budget.
But then
And
it
they
has
use
to
that.
And they have their own
pay it.
accounts, right?
No.
We pay, so if they want to purchase something, often we will purchase it for them and then we will code it to their account. So
Okay.
yes, they do have their own account, but we code it to their account so that it doesn't come out of our general operational budget. And that's fine. If the directive of the board is that we're not gonna purchase any food, that's fine. But I also feel like.
It's not just
that
food,
money-
there's a bunch of little things that I've seen. Again, we'll go
Right.
into that later.
Sure.
I was just bringing that up.
Yeah.
But my question is, we have so many P cards that we keep pushing to the PTA, we push into this person, it's paying out by that person, but these individuals have their own accounts. These people have this. So we're bombarding our accountants already, right? So we're trying to mitigate some of the work that they have so that we can get a more efficient process, but we're actually giving them more work, more approval paperwork. We're giving them more accounts that they got to transfer the money. We're just creating more.
So
I'm
the
trying to
board
find a
wants to
more
create a
efficient
list?
process.
Right.
Right.
So does the board want to create a list of who has permission to it and you want us to remove others from not having permission?
To certain P cards, I would like to sit down and discuss why each individual has it,
Okay.
the reasons behind it, and if they truly need it, and then how we can go about having them be able to.
I think that, I don't think that is under our purview.
I agree.
I mean, I really don't. I'm gonna have to speak up and disagree. There are some small things that need to be paid for, and I don't think we need to go through them. A lot of them were little toys for kids, rewards, things like that. And I know we all want to find money and find where it's being spent, where it doesn't need to be, but I really don't think these P cards are where it's at. So
you're saying $109,000 in a single month isn't a lot of money? I'm not saying all of that was bad. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that's a lot of purchases.
It is, and it takes a lot to run a business.
100%
And what they're not doing is coming to us and asking us for pens and paper and supplies. So it is giving, I believe it is giving the principal and the schools the authority and the freedom to buy things that they need on a day-to-day basis rather than asking for it. Am I correct?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so I mean, I know, so is it built in the budget? I guess that is the main question. Is it built in the budget, the P card spending?
So we have, each school gets a block grant. And in that block grant, they have like a principal's account. And that gives them like kind of the freedom to make decisions as they are professionals of what the day-to-day needs are in their building. So if the chemistry teacher comes and says, I have a chemistry final tomorrow and all of my T85 calculators, I'm worried that one of them's going to give out. Can you supply me with 58 batteries that I know? the principal's likely gonna go and say, I'm gonna jump on Amazon and get it here tomorrow because exams are on Thursday, to make sure that the kids have what they need. And so that's just an example of maybe what that would be used for.
I'm not saying all of it, I'm not saying all the purchases are unnecessary.
Let's-
I'm only
let's-
picking
let's-
out P
let
cards
me
right now.
Can
real
I finish
quick.
like the process when it gets to the accounting department? I think it was pretty clear that when it gets in, every single receipt goes into your accounting department and then is coded to something.
Yes.
Who, does that, somebody check that? Is there a flag if there's something weird or
There
something?
is. We have several. Our cards are very locked down. As a matter of fact, I think one of the principals even said, I wish I could use it. You know what I mean? I wish we could be making a joke or whatever, because it's so hard to use them. But there are several layers of people who have to approve that. And the receipts actually are loaded into the system. So I can actually click on it. If I was giving you an example last time we were here. So last time we were here, we had a break. I pulled out my email. Dr. Kibler had put in his P card account for Genie. So people are like, what is Genie? I know what Genie is, so I can just approve it because I know what it is. But Genie is a translation system that we use for our schools to be able to have like parent conferences where we would have a Hispanic parent maybe and a teacher be able to have a parent conference where we have a translator, a live translator. It's a very reasonable service. We pay a minimum for it. They do not take anything else but credit cards. So when his comes up and I see Genie, I just know to automatically do it. But if he was to purchase something else that wasn't familiar to me, I would go in the system. I would look at the receipt. If somebody goes out and gives a receipt for food or something, we look at every single receipt to see, what it is. And it gets approved. And then it goes to another layer and it gets approved. And then it finally goes into the finance department. So there's a lot of markers on there to help us to make sure that we are holding people accountable for, making sure that their purchases are within the rights of what they should be purchasing.
Can I ask one question? When we're working on the budget and we're having the budget meetings, one of the takeaways I got from the last meeting was that there isn't a line item for P card purchases. They get consolidated, like you see it kind of after the fact, but like how do we mentally prepare for P card expenses going into the next year's budget? Like how do we
So
anticipate that?
that's a really good point. So remember I said like every principal has a block grant. And so we follow that block grant to make sure they are spending it and that maybe they're not spending it. Because sometimes if we have a new principal, they're kind of like, oh, I don't know what, or whatever. And then when we, just about this time of the year, we actually say, okay, you're about 75 spent out of your block grant, which is where you should be this time of year.
You said the word block grant. Is that a grant? Or is it just called a block grant?
It's just called a block grant.
It's their budget.
It's our operational budget.
And where does that fall into the line items when we're looking at like all
So
the?
it's in instructional materials, it's materials of instruction, and you would see that broken down. There's basically central office based, which is where our supervisors are ordering blanket stuff for their contents across the district. But then there's also the school block grants. And so we give a per pupil allocation to every school based on the previous year's enrollment. And then the principals basically it's up to them as they see fit with that allotment for their schools.
What do they do if they don't spend it? Do they give it back?
It comes back into our kitty and really back in the day where we had like a fund balance, it would go into the fund balance and we would use it to do things in the summertime or.
So it is accounted for when we're thinking of the budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I left the last meeting thinking it wasn't, and that we kind of found out like after the fact, and it was hard to like pinpoint that when it's a moving.
And I have to say, I mean, the principals are very good. They watch their spending. They know exactly, what time of the year they spend certain things, so they plan for that. They also kind of think of rainy day, what typical things may happen during the school year that I shouldn't spend everything out of the gate because, they only get that block grant. And they do, Dr. Kibler made a really good point, especially with those chargers. The kids, they lose them, break them.
Kids.
And we, our IT department does not budget to reimburse or replace those at the school level. So the principals have to put that in their budget, and they think about that. They
Do
know.
the parents have to pay for?
They do often ask and request parents to pay, but sometimes that doesn't
Yeah.
happen. But yes, they do have a cost factor tied to them, but it doesn't always get reimbursed.
So, not that I want to, I don't, it seems to be a passion of yours to want to go through all of these and.
Not a passion. I feel like it's a need because we're
okay.
behind budget. I feel like I'm not saying, so real quick.
Wait, can I finish
Okay,
real
go
quickly
ahead,
for you?
yes.
So
That's fine.
this is a topic that is something that you want to be on. Where I would like this board to understand, because I participate in the legislative meetings. I was at Legislative Day. We are in a shortfall because of funding that is no longer available to us. I would love to see us get together, get our parents together, and put together a team that will go and testify to let our legislators know that just because the federal government is falling down and those funds are no longer available, the state needs to help us out. Yes, we can ask our county commissioners for more money, but it is a little bit bigger than our county commissioners because it's a statewide problem. And we can shut down every P card. We can stop any erroneous spending, and we're still gonna be in the hole. We're still gonna have to possibly lay teachers off. We're still gonna have to cut programs because the funding is no longer available. And I would like for us to aim a little bit higher and try to help push that agenda. I was gonna ask you, because I would really, you have a good knack for expressing how you feel about things. There is a legislative meeting coming up where they are asking for board members, parents, the community to testify in front of the Maryland legislature and let them understand where we are. And I think that our voice would be better heard in that situation than this continued conversation every week, every month.
Well, I'll just add, the priorities that the board sets for the budget are by the board as a whole. I understand individually you all might have, different areas of special interest, and you should bring those to the entire board, but ultimately what the end of the day, what the priority is that of the board as a unit, as a body. So, at some point you need to reach a consensus about what your priorities are, taking into account, the special interests of each of you, and deciding, is a special interest of one of you not necessarily the interest of the board as a whole, or is it an interest of the board as a whole? And you need to set that as a unit.
And I really think that there's a sense of urgency today to do exactly what you said. And we did present to you what's in the legislation right now to cut our foundational money, which will cripple us even more than we already are.
That was brought
And so
up.
it's like, we really do need now, is there a sense of urgency now to be in Annapolis and, saying you cannot cut our foundational money, you cannot cut funding from the blueprint right now. They're not even funding us what they should be funding us.
Correct.
And if they're gonna cut us, it just compounds it, right? So there is a very big sense of urgency for us to be in Annapolis right now, really expressing how challenging it is to not have the funding we need necessary from the state level.
I would like to ask that we table the rest of the conversation.
Say what I was gonna say initially.
Sure.
So what you just said, I don't disagree with you one bit. 100%. Our funding is falling apart and we do need to get to legislation, basically voice our opinions. I don't disagree with you with that at all. I think that would be great for the community to come together, and not only Queen Anne's County, but every county in the state. But you talk about, oh, we have this, we're losing funding, it doesn't matter, we're going to be, not that it doesn't matter, we can curb the erroneous spending, we can do this, this, and this, but we're still going to be in the hole and be in the budget. Right. We're still going to be in a budget because that's where we're going. And I'm not saying I'm fixing everything. And yes, I have a passion for this because I'm not saying nobody's doing their job, and I'm not saying that we have crazy spending that's going above and beyond that shouldn't be being done. But the thing is, I don't know that, and the community doesn't know that. They just keep seeing that we're over budget, over budget, over budget. But me, not only personally, but the community, I can't go to the community and tell them that I did everything I possibly could by going, I'm only picking apart the P cards because that's what we got last week and that's what we were here and I'd spent time. That's why I'm picking that apart because that's the most recent. But from board members, we should be able to go to the community and say we did absolutely 100% everything we could. We searched high and low through everything. We helped Mr. Pinder, we helped Dr. Salines, we helped Dr. Kibler go through the budget, and we helped as much as we could, because as board members, we should be able to go through there and say, yes, this is what we did. And if we were able to save $100,000, guess what? That's one more teacher that we got to keep. If we just keep going like, hey, we're going to be over budget and it's the state's problem, so we're just going to lay off some teachers and call it a day, and we keep going down this path, but we didn't try, personally, we didn't give 100% effort to go in there and figure it out. Even if we did save only $100,000, that's one teacher we don't have to let go. That's one person. If we save 200,000, that's two people. Or if we saved 150, we got a para or somebody. Like, that's positions that we did go in and we were able to save instead of just saying, we got a budget, we need to go to Annapolis and do this. Like, that's my mentality. I'm just showing you where I'm at and my logic behind it. Because at the end of the day, I'm here, we got our own jobs, but these people working here, this is their job. So if we don't go out and give 100% diving into every single thing that we absolutely can, and we could have, we just lost another employee, or 2 employees, or 3 employees. That's where I'm looking at it. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, or I'm not trying to dive into it and nitpick. But whenever you talk about, just say, the $30,000 from food, or that's just an example that was here. Like I said, I'm all for cupcakes and folks for free. But you start adding other expenses that could save $1,000 here, $2,500 there. Over a course of a year, that starts to add up. And when you do that, that saves positions or saves other things. And that's my logic, my mentality behind it. Is it the end all be all? Is it absolutely correct? No, but that's where I'm coming from, and that's what I'm trying to do, because at the end of the day, we were elected by the community, and that's what I want to help them and the teachers stay in position. So that's what I wanted to say, and that's why I'm diving into this. I'm not trying to put anybody on blast. I'm trying to figure out where we can save money so we can save positions. And at the end of the day, when we save more positions, we're helping the students. We need it. At the meetings, every single teacher, even at the budget roundtable that we came to, every single department, we need more staff. We need more staff. So if we can save a couple of staff members, that's just the beginning of trying to save. And that's my mentality, and that's why I'm not trying to fight for it, but that's why I'm trying to dig in so deep. So, in other words, I would like to, yes, take you up on your offer.
Sure.
When we can set up a time, whether it's with Mr. Pender, with you or yourself, go over questions I have, be able to look at a couple line items just to understand the process.
Sure.
And things like that. Yes, I would like to take you up on that offer. We can set up a time and be able to go do that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. At this time, citizens' participation. Anybody want to speak out there? Okay. Future meetings. I guess I should put my glasses on so I can see. Our next meeting will be February 12th at 4:30. It's a budget work session. At this moment, I would like to adjourn open session. I'm sorry.
Well, because then we're gonna move into closed.
Okay, so you're both saying the same thing.
We need to read the statement again?
Yeah, for personnel.
Before we move into close?
Yeah, just like you did at the beginning.
Can I make one request though? Something that could help us in the budget is requesting org charts. You know an org chart. Okay.
Sure, Mrs. Dennis can get that.
Okay, and it breaks down the exact, like, Board of Ed building and then each school from each staff, each principal. So what I was gonna request that could help us if we have to make some cuts and things like that, an org chart, a current org chart of where we're at currently, an org chart.
We can get that.
Right.
I don't know if we have exactly what you're looking for, but it's more general, but if you're looking for more specific, we can certainly.
Right, and then one that's like, what is the absolute bare minimum that the school district can operate on? Just so we have an idea. And then in a perfect situation, So I know it's 3 org charts, and I apologize, but and then our perfect situation, what would we want?
But that looks like the 3 budgets that you guys put together.
But it's not,
The
I'm
bare
talking
mi-
about an org part, like
No,
people,
no, no, but I'm
not,
saying,
not.
but you're saying you want to see the actual names of the people.
No,
That's
you
fine.
can leave the names out. I don't
But
need the people.
The 3 budgets we
position.
got was, if we kept everybody, this is what it looks like, and this is how much it cost. If we want to keep going and be okay, this is what it looks like, this is what it costs, and this is the bare minimum. This is what it looks like, this is what it costs.
But if we, I would like to see the org charts just so we could see where the cuts are and what the funding cuts would be. I don't need names. I want to see the positions, if that's okay. An org chart where we're at currently. What's the bare minimum operations? Because then who are we losing? What are we losing? How does that affect certain staff in certain areas? Who are we overload or things like that? And then an org chart for a perfect scenario. Because I think that will help define some of the budget as well.
Can I just offer
Oh, by all
something?
means.
I think, so I'm like panicked with turnaround time and things like that. So, because I'm trying to be responsive and respectful. So I think the starting point is org charts where we're at. And then as we talk about what it would look like to fill out the other 2 like options of the budget. So whether that's 2 levels of cuts or 1 level of cut down and then and 1 up, I don't know yet. But I think what we just start is a blanket, like it looks like it would take 20 positions to cut to go down. We would not be ready to go school by school to say that's going to be 2 people from this school, 1 person from that school. And the reason I say that is because we will have to look at what our enrollment is right now, what it looks like it's going to be next year, and then based on advice from the board, what sort of, with recommendations from Dr. Salins and myself and my team and the principals, what sort of class sizes we'd be comfortable with, and then we can get to that next step. We wouldn't be able to do it all at once. So I think it's starting with where we're at, looking at what a total package would be to get to the 3 options, and then we start diving in of where that hits, if that's all right.
May I also add, and this might obviate the need for org charts, is that, staff cuts are prescribed by certain, legal and contractual rules. And so those don't necessarily follow an org chart. So looking at an org chart wouldn't really tell you where cuts would be, because cuts would, depending on whether it's certificated or licensed or non-licensed staff, it doesn't really, you can't really pick and choose on an org chart. It's governed by either the RIF procedures in the collective bargaining agreement, non-renewals of probationary certificate teachers. It's constrained by those rules that doesn't fit neatly into an org chart. So I just think an org chart is not the best representation of how to visualize what a cut would look like.
Okay, understand. I appreciate the information.
Sure, yeah. I just want to say, before you go doing that.
Can I still request the current one at least?
So that's what I said. I think that's
Right,
a
yeah.
fine starting point. And that's to be able to prepare that for next week, no worries.
Ms. Capes, can you read
Speaking for
the
Dr. Knoll over there, but.
closing?
Yes, pursuant to the general provisions, Article 3-305 and 3-104, the Board of Education of Queen Anne's County will meet in closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom the public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects 1 or more specific individuals, and the topic being a personnel matter.
I move that we adjourn to closed session.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.